Oh boy, yeah. Okay, so we're offline because people are asking for updates. She probably did something in the chat, just saying if you can say something. Should I say technical difficulties? So can I say something? Can I put you guys out of business?
Yeah.
All right, what do you feel?
I've done it. He literally sat down, the live stream ended. Did you step on something back there? Because you were like standing back there for like 30 seconds. Falcons hit Brian.
No, we're good.
No, no.
Here we are. That's an actuality. It says live. So this is the video. It's all good. They just said.
Titans haven't picked yet today. Wild.
So, yeah, this is. Oh, man.
Maybe we're looking at Chase Roulier in round 5. That might be a fun pick. I know guys over at Setting the Edge are high on him.
Mm-hmm.
But that'd be interesting, I guess. I wasn't that high on him. I had like a 5th round grade on him. But I think where the Bucs will be picking here isn't a bad value at all.
Why would the Falcons go to another running back?
Aren't they saying that they're looking to trade Freeman?
No, they're
There's
trying to
no
resign him.
way.
Yeah, but they don't have the cap to now.
They will figure out a way.
Since they paid Michael Cannon, I don't think they have the money to.
Michael Kanan, the punter?
No, not Michael Cannon. He said Matt Schaub. I have no idea why I said Michael Cannon. He's been out of the league for like 5 years. Didn't he get like some chronic illness as well?
Yeah, from bad energy drink that you gave him at training camp.
But Bucks
You
have
have a
issues
mustache.
with.
Do you realize you have a mustache?
I have a small one. Yes.
You're 14 with a mustache.
I have people.
How is
I know.
this possible?
No idea.
Get over there close to the camera so people can see your stash. He's got a better mustache than me. He's created a spreadsheet here better than me. He's a better draft analysis than me. I don't
But
need
you're
you
better
guys.
at Bucks analysis than I am.
I
By a
don't
long
need you
shot.
guys piping in. What'd you say?
I'd say you're better Bucks analyst than I am.
Well, just because I'm here every day.
I
Oh,
suppose.
I'm gonna do the mic like this because I have a bad back.
First Memphis player drafted, and it's
Yeah, Vinny, I'm with you. I'm not really sure of that pick. I mean, unless they're concerned, maybe they're not gonna be able to keep Freeman at some point. I don't know. That's an odd one for me, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say, I am really, 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 really surprised the Buccaneers haven't drafted a running back, and I know that Scott's gonna write about that and things like that. But I'm just, they are really rolling the dice that Doug Martin's gonna be fine. And even if Doug Martin is fine with whatever his personal issues were last year, is he fine as a running back?
Yep.
Going to be 29, some wear and tear. I mean, yes, I know they said 2 years ago, and I've said it before, he was the second leading running back in the country, I mean, in the NFL behind Adrian Peterson. But, again, that was 2 years ago. So, you know, I don't know. I'm just, this is a bit of a gamble. Or, look, Riley, they could just plan on saying, screw it, we're going to throw the ball 75 times a game.
absolutely give Jameis some workout on.
You know, throw the ball to Charles Sims out of the backfield occasionally. If they have to run the ball inside the 5 or something, give it to Jacquez Rogers. I don't know. it's really.
All the pass catching backs with Sims and.
The crazy thing is the Bucs showed a ton of pre-draft interest in running backs. It wasn't like they didn't bring in a Joe Mixon and a Dalvin Cook, and they were at Marlon Mack's pro day.
They had Marlon Mack, Kareem Hunt, Deonta Foreman, all of these
Right.
round 3 backs that I thought were options at 84. Did not touch.
Yeah, I don't know. What was your take on the Beckwith pick, moving back up to take an injured linebacker?
You know, I think Sam linebacker in the defense and Mike Smith's defense only really plays 40 to 45% of the snaps.
Not even that much,
Not even that
especially
much.
in the
last
NFC
year
South. Because NFC South, you got pass happy teams, so you're probably looking at 35%.
Yeah, and I think Daryl Smith obviously had value last year, but I think you saw Daryl Smith was a prolific 100-plus tackle a year guy, and he came in and he had I think under 50 tackles
Right.
last year. Just
Yeah, I mean, it's just not on the field, and the only thing, and again, this is me speculating here, is Jason mentioned last night he can also play Mike. You know, he can also fill in if something happens with Quan. You know, Quan will be looking for a new deal in the next couple years. Maybe it's an insurance policy. You've got a great Sam linebacker that can play Mike. If something happens to Quan, if he gets injured, or there's any issues, they can move him. Move the boom. Believes, do you really want to see me? Doesn't matter, but okay, I'll move it. Anyway, let's see what we're saying here. Really wanted Mac. I did too, especially when they decided not to go with Dalvin Cook.
for Channing's dribbling value, I guess. Channing's the guy who should go here in the next several picks or so. I think that cover 2 corner who can be your number 4 corner overall, and that's kind of the value that you look for in this range. Jermaine Illuminor for Baltimore here, really nice selection. I had a 3rd-round grade on him. I think he's a guard, not a tackle, but I think he's got upside to play right guard or right tackle. Just really nice, obviously a JUCO transfer. Really cool story, moved from London to the U.S. at 14, has a rugby background.
Hello, mate. Throw another
absolutely.
shrimp on the Barbie. Oh, wait, that's Austria. Oh, wait, that's Australia. I know that.
It's Austria, absolutely.
Hey, look, somebody asked real quick, does Beckwith pick bump Bond off the roster? No, because I don't know at what point Beckwith's going to be ready to play. I mean, he tore an ACL. What was that Gator game? Last November. It's pretty.
Second to last game of the year.
So second to last game of the year last year. You're looking at a 8 to 12 month recovery time for most ACLs. Even at 8 months, you're looking at what, September?
Probably, I think.
No, that wouldn't be September because September is the 9th month of the year. So maybe he's ready for the start of training camp.
I think he probably is. I agree with you that he's probably ready for start of training camp. I think that. And I mean, Matt Miller from Bleacher Report said that Beckwith was a top 75 prospect before the injury. So I mean.
He was an all SEC guy last year, 2nd team All American.
Missed last 2-3 games of the year and still was 1st team All SEC.
91 tackles, 263 for his career.
To answer to John Kavnar, I think that Beckwith probably went in this same range, round 2, round 3, had he been healthy.
Yeah, for sure. So, and listen, the Bucs have had good luck with Quan Alexander, an unheralded linebacker out of LSU. I'll remember, and Scott could tell the story too. We were sitting there when the pick was made, and we're like, Quan Alexander, really? We were not. That was probably our least impressed pick of the day a couple years ago, and it turned out to be one of the best. I can't remember the entire draft class that year, but certainly, obviously, it was one of Jason Light's better picks and better finds late in the draft, 4th round guy. So, again, we can sit here and start giving grades before the guys have ever seen the field, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're bashing the Beckwith pick, but how many times have we seen teams like the Giants stockpiling D-line? If they have it as best player available, I think it could be a good pick. And I agree, Matthew. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it was probably the head scratcher of it so far. The Justin Evans pick was a little bit of a head scratcher too because I thought maybe there's some better safeties out there. But obviously, look, we can say we think it's better. Bottom line is this is what these guys do all day, every day for their entire career. They know what they're looking for. The coaches give their input. The coaches watch the film. I'm sure Mike Smith said, I would love to have this guy, or he fits better here. I think this guy can fit in our scheme and what we want to do better than, say, player B. All of those factors go into it. So we'll see. Linebacker is a devalued position with the decline in the running game. To a degree, yes. Sam is important, though, on 1st and 2nd downs, particularly if he's going to have the responsibility of covering the tight end. And not just that, taking on the tight end to try and funnel stuff back to Quan Alexander and Levante David to a degree. You need a bigger boy, and that is one thing that Beckwith is. I think he's 246 or 43 pounds. He's a pretty big guy. He's Noah Spence size. Noah Spence weighed in at under 250 pounds last year. And I know that because I caught him on the scale when they do the weigh-ins every week and with during open locker room. But he was like 246 or something like that himself.
Real quick, pick 160 here. Cleveland Browns are getting Rod Johnson from FSU. So that's something Mark can probably talk about.
Who is?
Cleveland.
Cleveland has not had good luck with FSU linemen. They took what was the guy? Golly, how can I forget this? Cameron.
Cam Irving.
Yeah. What?
Cam Irving.
Yeah, Cam Irving. And Cam has been absolutely terrible. They moved him to center, and he was bad there. Maybe
He's probably the
he'll
odd
get
man out
better.
on that line
Yeah,
now.
he very well could be. Roderick, a guy that underperformed at times, but scouts love his size. He performed well at the FSU Pro Day. I was up there for that. Nice young man. Talked to him for a few minutes. A guy that maybe the Buccaneers had their eye on as a later round guy. I think Jason mentioned last night that there could be some offensive linemen brought in, and there will be certainly when the undrafted free agents start getting signed later tonight, but or deals start getting made later tonight. But Roderick is a guy that that's about where I expected him to go. I mean, some people had him rated a little bit higher, but fifth round.
I had a fifth round grade on him. I think that that's a fairly good range for Roderick. He's got balance issues and sometimes struggle with leverage issues. But I think with the Browns, he doesn't have to step in immediately. I think he can develop, maybe year 2, year 3, start at right tackle.
Yeah, that's a possibility. He's definitely a right guy, not a left side guy. I mean, we'll see. Let's see. I hope we get Brantley. That comes from Garrett. What else do we got? Mark explained to me what a Sam is. Sam, strong side linebacker. He's going to line up over the tight end when the offense is like in a base, offense where they've got a tight end on the field. You want bigger guys because they are going to have to battle with the tight end somewhat, and also do some coverage. Now, look, if it's Jimmy Graham, you're not putting your Sam linebacker on him. Most likely, you're most likely going to have to use a safety. And here's the thing, Riley. This is what I love about the O.J. Howard pick, because now you put O.J. Howard on the field along with Cam and Brate. If you split those guys out wide, well, number one, if you've got two tight ends, that's going to dictate that the defense is going to stay in their base 4-3. They're not going to be in the nickel most likely. So if that's the case, then you split the two tight ends out. You've got Evans and you've got Jackson on the outside. Now it essentially forces the defense to say, okay, a linebacker is going to have to cover one of these two tight ends. Who's it going to be? And it also could create a mismatch there because both of these guys, I think, can beat most linebackers.
Not to interrupt, Bucks just picked Jeremy McNichols from Boise State, running back. Doug Martin gets a fellow Boise State runner in the locker room with him. McNichols has a pretty similar frame to him. He's 5'9", around 210 pounds. But nice value here. McNichols struggled with fumbles, had a chronic shoulder issue that caused him to slip a good bit. But now they get him. It's pretty good value for 162nd overall. Not
bad. And I'm going to jump out and do a story in just a second as soon as Trevor and Scott comes back in here. But real quick on the thing with the O.J. Howard. Now you've got teams that are going to have to possibly put, if you got both tight ends on the field, Deshaun and Mike, you're going to have to put a safety on one of these guys potentially. And then when you do that, then essentially you've got cover 3, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so now you have a single safety who's going to have to try and decide, am I going to go Mike or am I going to go Deshaun as far as that goes. So there's a lot of, people were saying, well, what does this mean for Cameron Brate? It means nothing. It means good things for Cameron Brate. I mean, he's not on the trade block or any of these things at all. They wanted to have two tight ends. Dirk Cutter loves tight ends. He's excited about the things he can do with a two tight end set. And he's already scheming up ways. He's probably got napkins up in the war room right now where he's been doodling tight end play since they drafted O.J. Howard.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think really Jason Litt's a New England guy. I think he understands the value of having two tight end sets that he can run. And I think I really like the idea of having Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans on the outside. Got a nice 50-50 ball threat and Mike, and a deep and a speed threat in Deshaun. And then you got a nice blend. I think O.J.'s a nice blocker and pass catcher. But I think you have Evans and Jackson run 9 routes, and then you have Howard and Brate run and then you have them run corner routes, and I think that creates nice separation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I almost prefer a 2 tight end, 2 receiver look now for the Bucks instead of a 4 receiver set.
Yeah, and it's all about the matchups, and again, you can disguise things. You've got two tight ends on the field on first and second down. People are assuming, okay, here comes a run. All of a sudden, Jameis Winston gets under center, splits one or both of these guys out wide, and all of a sudden the defense has to adjust on the fly. Somebody is going to be open. Now, hopefully the offensive line can give Jameis enough time. we'll see what happens. I love the Howard pick. I absolutely love the Howard pick. Of course, I wanted Dalvin Cook because he's the most dynamic running back in the draft. Um, but I will say I have zero problem with him taking O.J. Howard. Number one, I would have never mocked O.J. Howard to the Bucks because I didn't think there was any chance in heck that he was going to be there.
Oh no, I viewed him at OJ as a consensus top 10 pick,
Yeah.
kind of best tight end since Vernon Davis. Top 5 player on my board. They just announced the McNichols pick for the Bucks if you're interested. But I thought Howard is a dynamic, really just dynamic player, top 5 player for me in the draft. I think he can be a player who, just immediate matchup nightmare run looks for the Bucks.
I really watched. I really liked that he excelled in those big games, those 2 championship games. I thought he had a great game last January here in Tampa. I remember in the fourth quarter, and I think I mentioned this on Monday night after the pick, but I remember I remember a drive in the fourth quarter where he dropped the ball. He kind of mistimed his jump a little bit, and he came right back about 2 plays later and made another stupendous, terrific play going up, hanging in the air. That's not easy for a guy of his size, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where guys, they almost levitate, they jump a little early, or the ball's not thrown, and he was able to hang up there, and he grabbed the back of the ball, pulled it in for a big first down for Alabama. I thought to myself, this is not a normal tight end. You just don't see tight ends do that. We have never seen Luke Stalker do that. And that's not knocking Luke Stalker. It's just rare. And I joked earlier, tight ends like O.J. Howard have become unicorns to a degree in the NFL. You've heard of them.
Yeah.
We've read about them. But we just haven't seen many of them.
But, I think OJ, we've talked about this a good bit, but I think OJ comes into the NFL and is probably already a top 10 tight end in the league in terms of a matchup nightmare, tested great, tape is great, elite blocker, elite receiver, just does everything well.
Squeaky clean guy, too. You know what I mean? I mean, we all probably have a few skeletons in the closet, even Riley Almond over here. But the bottom line is he hasn't gotten in any trouble. We met family yesterday as well. I asked specifically about this character because everybody's raving about his character. Where does it come from? And he said it came early from his parents. He was disciplined as a child, and he didn't get away with anything. And then he goes to Alabama. You don't get away with a whole lot in Alabama. Nick Saban, you would probably rather your parents yell at you than Nick Saban yell at you. So because your parents don't usually make you run stadium steps till 3 in the morning like Nick Saban's liable to do. But a high character guy, and something the Buccaneers, certainly a position need, I thought that they filled. I did the tight end preview last week, and I was looking at the roster of tight ends, and it was scary. There just wasn't many bodies there. And I love Alan Cross and what he does, and here's a guy that nobody expected to make the team last year, and he did. And he may make the team again this year. We could be looking at Brait, Howard, Stalker, and...
No, I think this offense is definitely loaded. I think you got like you mentioned, I think we got Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson, Chris Godwin now, Adam Humphries, Cam Brait, and O.J. Howard now. I think this offense has really been bolstered in this draft. I think now we have clear strength at really every position, and I think running back, we have enough players to be sufficiently good next year. I think now we probably have our 4 running backs that are going to be on roster next year. If they do keep Doug Martin, Charles Sims, Jaquiz Rogers, and McNichols. I don't know if they value McNichols enough, but I tend to think he will stay on the roster.
See what he does special teams wise. That he's going to have to. If you're the 4th running back, you better. And Peyton Barber was on special teams last year. You're going to have to contribute to the special teams, and we'll see. That'll be an interesting battle to watch, the McNichols and the Peyton Barber thing. I know a lot of people were high on Barber, and I like Peyton Barber. Nice young man. Great story coming from Auburn and leaving school early to try and help his family out of some dire financial situations. Very admirable type thing. But I didn't see anything special out of him last year. He had that long run against the 49ers, but that was kind of I think it was like a 3rd and short kind of deal. It's one of those situations where you get, they're all guessing what gap to hit. He was able to squeeze out and run. That really skewed his numbers because that was probably a 40-yard, 45-yard touchdown run, whatever it was, if you take that out of the equation. And I know you can. But if you do, his yard per carry average drops dramatically. But we'll see what Peyton does. I mean, again, Peyton is a young running back. I mean, he's a very, not just young in the NFL, I mean, he's a young kid overall. And really didn't get an opportunity at Auburn except that one season. And had he come back, I think he would have improved his stock a little bit, and he would have been a better running back heading into the NFL. But, hey, he made it last year, and we'll see if he's able to hold off McNichols this year. There will be other running backs also brought in. Let's not forget Russell Hansborough is still on this roster, but I don't know that he's a threat really to make this roster, but he'll be given an opportunity. And tonight and through tomorrow, as they sign these undrafted free agents, there will be more running backs brought in.
No, and I think Peyton's guy almost looked like in a stash in the practice squad last year. And I think since he's a second-year player,
he's still eligible. They can stash him again again this year. Mike James was on the practice squad for 9 years. It seemed like every time I turned around, Mike James was on the practice squad. I was like, I thought there's no way he could be on it. It seems like he always was. Art of Free Speech says McNichols' highlight reel is underwhelming, nothing special. I'll reserve judgment. Just educating on McNichols. Is he a Sims type?
McNichols is more of a Martin type of rookie compare. I think 5'9", kind of undersized guy, but good burst, good change of direction abilities, nice acceleration to get to the second level. A lot like Doug in terms of just these kind of bowling ball style of running day. So keeps going, just keeps his feet moving, and gets extra yards. A total 27 touchdowns for Boise State last year, second in the nation. Second in the nation overall. And when you look at him, I think that obviously the Bucs have shown that if you're a fifth-round pick and you underperform, they will cut you. But I think he's got a good chance to make this roster, be the number 4 back on roster. Even with that chronic shoulder issue that might shorten his career, I still think that he's a quality player and a good pick for this value.
All right, I'm communicating with Scott and Trevor right now, wondering who's doing what. They may already have the story up for all I know. I haven't checked.
Quick.
No, not yet. Trevor, Scott, and I will be doing an analysis article when the draft is over tonight. We're all going to give our thoughts on players we liked, players we didn't like, so on and so forth. We're going to do a three-part, three-topic thing, including who we would have swapped out, which pick we didn't like the most, and what player that was still on the board we would have liked to have seen. So make sure to check out Pewter Report later today for that. And I just want to thank everybody. We've had a tremendous weekend, record-setting weekend as far as traffic goes. Just tremendous. We appreciate everybody and all of the feedback, good and bad. Yes, Brantley was there. Buccaneers decided not to go there. I think Brantley's going to be there for a little bit longer.
I think Brantley could go undrafted this one. If he's lasted 5 rounds, there's a higher chance he goes undrafted than he might be drafted this point.
Now, you're a Gators fan, Riley. There's no debating that. Why don't you tell your Jameis Winston jersey story? That's one of my favorite ones.
Jameis Winston jersey story is fun. Rookie minicamp, training camp, Jameis' rookie year. Lean back to take a photo of James, kind of a selfie kind of deal, and Jameis leans over with his silver Sharpie and signs the back of my Mike Evans jersey. So I have this illegible silver marking on the back of my Mike Evans jersey now that looks like that, so I can tell that story.
And you can tell people that's Mike Evans' signature because nobody can read it.
Absolutely.
Is that jersey signed by Mike Evans, or is the only signature on there Jameis Winston?
Only signature on there is Jameis Winston.
Will you bring a Gator hat to camp this year and get Jameis to sign it? I think that would be great.
It will be signed 2018.
Yeah, it'll definitely be. I never lost to you guys. Signed Jameis Winston. Almost did his last year though at Florida State. That was a scary game for Florida State fans, knowing they needed to win that and win the ACC championship game the following week to get into the playoffs. So, of course, they met Oregon and got steamrolled there. But anyway, that was one of my least favorite Jameis Winston games. Gator defense has played Florida State tough. Even in the last few years when Florida State was expected to win big, and they ended up winning big, it wasn't an easy game. I mean, the Gators came out last year, opening drive with Austin Chili's / TGI Fridays / Applebee's, and drove right down the field. I forgot what happened. They didn't score, though. You guys didn't score. Remember that opening drive in Tallahassee?
I don't know.
There was a pick in the end zone, I believe.
I think it was picking the end zone.
Yeah, I think it was picking the end zone.
White, but
Anyway, here's a question for you to get off topic here. Why didn't McElwain just play one of your freshman guys last year? Why not? I thought about that when Alabama's starting a true freshman, 18-year-old quarterback over at Raymond James Stadium, and I'm thinking this kid is going to be better next year because he's got 13, 14 games under his belt now. And McElwain's trying to keep these guys for an extra year. look, if McElwain doesn't start winning some football games and showing some promise, he's not going to be here to see these guys get their, fourth or fifth year of playing time.
I think that last year for the Gators, I think that they got to a point where it was 8 games into the year, and Del Rio had gotten hurt, and they really didn't have much to do. But activating a guy like Franks or Trask for 4 games
Well,
wasn't worth
I
as
understand,
much.
but I'm just saying he should have went into the year. I mean, you really did he have that much confidence in Del Rio at the beginning of the year? I mean, the guy was limited, extremely limited.
I think this year, the upside, it will be Felipe Franks or Kyle Trask or maybe even Jake Allen as a freshman.
All right, here we go. Stop flicking us off, Mark. Am I accidentally doing that or something? I don't know what I'm doing. I apologize. I don't mean to. What else we got? I'm okay with the devaluing of the running back in the draft. It sends a good team message, and linebacker was a very good depth pick in my opinion. Draft should also improve special teams. They fumbled on a pitch on 3rd and goal. I think that's what Vinny's saying. Is he talking about the Gator game?
Yeah, I think
thought
that's
it was
what he's talking about.
interception.
Yeah.
Was it a fumble?
I know. I can't remember at this point.
All I know is
Eagles take Shelton Gibson. Guy Scott Reynolds likes a lot as a vertical threat. I'm not that big a fan of his.
He's a speed guy, right?
He's a vertical threat. Advanced Analytics say he's the best deep receiver in the draft, which is interesting.
Tavon Austin's fast. Played at West Virginia, right?
Ran like 4.53, nothing special.
Yeah, that's
Quicker
not
than
that
that.
fast.
Best deep threat, not.
Because I shouldn't be drinking my big gulps on camera. Sorry. I'll put it on the floor.
I can drink at it this entire time. No,
I don't know how you do that.
it's hard.
Robert Jones makes a good point. Trust light. I mean, as if you're a fan, that's all you can do. A media member, that's all we can do. It doesn't, he's doing what he's going to do. And I think overall he's proven to have more hits than misses. And every GM's going to miss on some guys. What do you think? Roberto Aguayo has any shot to be the kicker when they head to Miami for the season opener? What do you put the odds at?
I'm sitting at 50-50 right now. I think it's.
I'm saying 25%. I think, and this is why I say this, Riley. You've got a veteran kicker in Folk. He's got guaranteed money. Aguayo's got guaranteed money. Somebody's gonna be getting paid next year to not play by the Buccaneers, and unless Folk just melts down in camp and Roberto Aguayo hits everything, I think they're going to probably have similar numbers. I think Aguayo's going to also show that he can hit in a game from outside of 50 yards. If he booms a couple 50-yarders, Folk struggles a little bit, maybe Aguayo gets the nod. But if all things are even coming out of camp, I think they go with the veteran.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that if Aguayo really doesn't step up in camp, I'm seeing the odds at 50-50 because I think they have to pay more in terms of that for a guy like Aguayo than they do with Folk. But, that's why you don't take a kicker that high. Even if the guy is what you think to be a first-round pick and is perfect inside the NFL hashes, I still think they could have gotten him maybe 1, 2, 3 picks later.
Yeah, very possible. Riley, what Florida quarterbacks did you mention?
I said Kyle Trask, Felipe Franks, and Kyle Allen.
What number pick are we at? In the draft, they're on round 5, pick 168. When do the Bucks? What number is the Bucks' next pick? Oh, they don't have one again until the 7th, right?
Yeah, they don't. We're not seeing probably for at least 45 minutes about another Bucks pick.
Yeah, if not longer. I'm going to try and stay awake. I actually got a little more sleep last night. I was able to sleep in a little bit longer today.
7 hours.
You got 7?
Yep.
Must be nice. I had to go to a funeral this morning. That's no fun. It wasn't mine, so that's always a good thing. I'll tell you something that my agriculture teacher at Turkey Creek Junior High told me in 1984, Riley Almond. I would walk into class and he'd be reading the Tampa Tribune, the obituary section. Mr. St. Martin was an old guy to start with. One day I was like, Mr. St. Martin, why are you always reading about the dead people? And you know what he said, Riley? The older you get, the more names you recognize. And that's true. When you're young, nobody dies. The older you get, people around your age and even older, they tend to fall off. And so that's where I was at this morning, unfortunately. But anyway, that's the way life is. And that'll be me and you one day. Unless they come up with some sort of deal where we can live forever. I don't want to live forever. Give me a good 75 years. I'll be happy. I'm 46 now. Look, if I can make a deal with God to get to 55, I probably would take that right now. The way I feel. Nah, 60. I'm just kidding. I want 75. Give me the 75, and I promise I won't beg for any more.
Kyle Krabs did have Jeremy Nichols in his top 75. I had him lower than that. I had a 5th-round grade on him, so that's fairly good value here.
Sorry, Juan. I didn't mean to dampen the mood. The person who passed away was a buddy's mother-in-law. She was 70 years old. It's not, not anything super
we
tragic.
took it into
Still
AP
sad.
philosophy, though.
Very depressing. We're going to do the rest of the show in our depression voice. Let me hear your depression voice, Riley.
Just talk deep like this, I guess.
Talk
I'm
deep and slow.
deep and slow.
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 Slow. Deeper. Your voice changed
Did
yet?
I not say Jake Allen? Yes, it has. Did I not say Jake Allen? I meant Jake Allen. Allen, the freshman quarterback, at least.
What about Peterman? Has he went yet?
No, Peterman and Kai is still on the board.
Wow. I don't. Kaya doesn't surprise me. I think Kaya was one of those guys that our guy Trevor, when he was down at the Miami Pro Day, Kaya just blew off the media. Wouldn't talk to the media. Same thing with Njoku. Kind of weird. I mean, I was at Tallahassee and everybody spoke to the media. All the
Matt
players
Porter
did.
tracked him down and was able to get some quotes from him. But
Yeah. Kaya was just so inconsistent. Here's a guy that actually, in my opinion, played better earlier in his career. Now, again, you can take a look at who he was throwing to and things like that. He lost some good receivers over time, but never really took that jump. But we'll see how he does in the NFL. If he does make it in the NFL, he'll certainly be signed as a free agent at the very least. I suspect he'll still be drafted. And look, he could be a target here in Tampa Bay because we've talked about the fact the Buccaneers would not mind having another young quarterback in here to compete with the Ryan Griffins of the world, and we'll see. But that's surprising. Some of these guys that are still on the board. Okay, so the Bucs will have one more pick left. That could be a quarterback, in my opinion, but we'll see.
just mentioning it quick. Article now, but Pewter report for talking about Jeremy McNichols officially up, kind of just talking about value of the pick and where he fits in with the team.
How ironic if he takes the job away from Doug Martin.
The 5'9", 210-pound
They
running
just
back
need
from Boise
to.
State.
They just need to start painting the field blue at Raymond James Stadium before
And
home
the
games.
birds start flying onto the field.
I am not a fan of that gimmicky thing. I will say this: when my son was younger, even younger than you are now, he would play win NCAA. That was still probably the best
Still
video game
best
of all
sports
time.
video
Yes.
game.
But he would pick Florida State or whatever team he liked, but you could choose the field or where you wanted to play, and he liked to play on the blue field. Drove me crazy, but whatever. I guess if you're in Boise, Idaho, and you're trying to sell something to recruits, what are you going to sell them? Potatoes? I mean, the only gimmick you got is the sorority girls and the blue turf. That's all you got. And they've done a good job because, again, if I'm a college recruit, the last place in the world I'm thinking I want to go is Boise, Idaho. But anyway, they've been able to build a pretty good program there.
Potatoes and blue turf.
Potatoes, blue turf, and sorority girls. There's always girls at every college, Riley. You're going to learn this. In fact, I'm going to take you to Tallahassee this year. Uncle Mark's going to take Riley to Tallahassee, and you're going to fall in love with campus, the stadium, the atmosphere, and sorority row.
The lack of first-round picks as well.
We don't care about picks. That doesn't matter. There's a great first-round pick right 3 rooms over from us in the locker room that wears what number is he wearing these days? 3.
3.
Yeah, so there's been plenty of Florida State picks. Look, Florida State's a pretty young team. They didn't have a ton of seniors this year. So
I'm in
they're
on Cam
loaded for
Akers
next year.
2020, number one overall prospect.
You're already on Cam Akers. You got to admit, Derwin James is going to be a top 5 pick next year if he stays healthy.
Derwin will be. I always do my summer work. Derwin will be top 5, no doubt.
Yep. Bruno Sammartino is announcing the Steelers' next pick. I can't say that very good. Boise South, Juan Young says. Wasn't Cutter friends with Boise State coach now at Washington? Yes. Riley doing a great job. That comes from Joe Fulford, Animal. Now, he's a Gator, so that's probably the only reason he's saying that. Joe, let's be honest now. Joe, because Joe and I have known each other for over 20 years. But Joe, let's be honest. You were not sold on Jameis Winston. So I want you to type your response to that. You were not sold on Jameis Winston as being the Buccaneers quarterback. And that was a little anti-Gators or anti-FSU sentiment from being a Gator fan, which I understand that. But I want you to type out your response for us all to see that you were wrong on that. Now Joe's saying, "Oh please," he's going to have selective memory, Riley. He's going to say he was a
I
big
wasn't
Winston
entirely
fan all
sold at the
along.
moment on Winston. I'm in on him now, but I wasn't entirely sold at the moment.
Was it the character? Or was it his skill set?
It was the picks. It was the interceptions his senior year, and even though or junior year or sophomore year that took 0 for 3. But I think that the turnovers that second year were I guess a question mark for me. I had Mariota higher overall, so I mean I guess that's tells you something.
Now, Douglas, I don't know that I said Cook would be the first running back taken in the draft. I said he should be. He's my favorite running back. Where did you have the running backs ranked of the top three?
The top three I had Cook as running back 1, McCaffrey as running back 2, and then Fournette as running back 3.
Yep, and it went just the opposite of that. So I agreed with that. Reynolds is relieving me, and we've got a story up on that, though, right?
Yep.
Great, perfect. All right.
Got a story up on Scott relieving him?
Yes, on Scott relieving him. Good story. What do you think of McNichols?
They needed a running back, and
Doug Martin. He's basically Doug Martin.
yeah, he's.
I mean the
tick
chronic shoulder
faster.
issue, and he had a ton of fumbles in college. Probably get your thoughts on that.
Try to click off that, okay. It's not affecting anything, no one's complaining.
Yeah. Hello.
Reynolds back, Cook gone.
How we doing?
Happy now.
I'm here for hour 2 now.
Yes.
Enjoying it. Thanks to everybody who's interacting.
Yeah, and we're not violating any child labor laws because we're not paying Riley yet.
Absolutely.
So
He's going with Uncle Mark to a Knowles game next year. Been trying to believe that.
it's an uphill climb.
Pot bellies. We're going to pot bellies.
So we're getting Jeremy McNichols on the conference call right now. Mark Cook and Trevor Sikkema are going in to listen to him. Obviously, there'll be questions asked about Doug Martin, who is a legend up there at Boise State. As I'm sure Riley and Mark have talked about, Dirk Cutter is from the state of Idaho, has a special place in his heart for Boise State Broncos. He was the head coach up there at Boise State, took him to the first ever bowl game. Certainly has some affection for Doug Martin. Doug Martin actually helped get him his head coaching gig by rushing for over 1,400 yards in a Pro Bowl season just a couple years ago in 2015. And the offensive success that the team had, coupled with the defensive failures of Lovie Smith, prompted Lovie's ouster after just 2 years, and Dirk Cutter was the in-house replacement. So, yep, Dirk Cutter loved him some Boise backs. So, the questions that I have about this particular pick, and obviously, Riley, they needed a running back. I think if you look at the stable of running backs, you're not going to have Doug Martin for 3 games. That's almost a quarter of your season, or a fifth of your season. And Jacquizz Rodgers, I think, is a serviceable back. I liked what he did last year in his role with the team, producing a couple 100-yard games. Not sold at all on Charles Sims as a ball carrier. I think at this stage, he had an opportunity to be a running back. He got the opportunity to start for a couple games, showed that was not his forte. His forte is catching passes at the backfield. I think that limits him a little bit in this offense and what he can do. Jeremy McNichols is more the immediate threat, as I see it, to Charles Sims than he is Doug Martin in terms of the roster spot. Actually, I'll take that back a step further. He's actually a threat for Peyton Barber because Peyton Barber now is the 4th running back in this team. He may end up being the odd man out when Doug Martin returns in week 4, provided that they keep Doug Martin throughout the offseason. It looks more and more like that's the case, though.
No, I tend to agree. Real quick, just something of note. 170th pick here. Vikings are taking USF receiver Rodney Adams.
There you go.
Rodney, special teams ace, deep threat.
He can return some kicks.
He can return some kicks. You know, I think. But just worth noting because it's the second USF player drafted here after Merlin Mack slipped. USF still has another potential player getting drafted in Kofi Amichia. So that's of note. Going off of what Scott said, I agree that McNichols, this team clearly doesn't have that much value placed into their running backs in terms of if you're taking round 5 or later. I think the Bucs view you on the same level as an undrafted rookie in terms of just you've got to still earn your spot on the team. So McNichols, I wouldn't say is a sort of lock on the roster, but I agree that he's probably the third, fourth back for this rookie year.
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity for him to work his way up to the number 2 back for the first couple of games of the season while Doug Martin is serving that 3-game suspension. It just depends on how quickly he assimilates into the offense, how quickly he learns the playbook. He'll get an awful lot of looks in the preseason for sure. I think Jacquizz Rodgers will be the guy that they want to rest a little bit, keep safe, protected during the preseason because they're going to need him as their opening day starter, I would guess at this stage. Again, we've seen rookies rise up in training camp on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Quan Alexander was a guy that was drafted to be a backup middle linebacker with the potential to become a starter at some point in time. And he came into this rookie minicamp and made a huge impression, was actually just as much of an impactful player in the rookie minicamp as Jameis Winston was. Winston got most of the attention because he was the franchise quarterback, taking number 1 overall. But there was a lot of buzz about Quan Alexander. That buzz came to fruition in training camp. And then lo and behold, after the first preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings, Bruce Carter, who was signed for $5 million a year to be the starting middle linebacker, was unseated by the rookie. So Jason Light, Dirk Cutter, they're not afraid to play the best players. And if Jeremy McNichols can come in, there's an opportunity for him to really see some action running the ball early in the season while Doug Martin is unavailable to this team. I think that if he can, again, learn the offense, show what he can do during the preseason, he can be the guy that spells Jacquizz Rodgers in the running game while still using Charles Sims in the passing game.
No, I think obviously, I think this team currently looks at things as Doug Martin. I think once he's healthy, I think this team kind of views him as a bell cow style back. I think they use Charles Sims as the pass catcher and Jacquizz Rodgers as the kind of change of pace back. And I think that McNichols can kind of carve out his own niche there. I think this team is more likely to have a running back by committee approach this year than they are to give a single back 20 to 25 carries.
And I'll just say it, I'm not sold on the health of Doug Martin and Charles Sims. History is on my side here. You've got Doug Martin in Tampa Bay for 5 years, and in 3 of those years, he has been a sub-500-yard rusher due to injuries. Now, the other 2 years, he's had tremendous success, going to the Pro Bowl and rushing for over 1,400 yards. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Doug Martin is a feast or famine running back, and really what the Buccaneers had to do is shore up that position with a guy that has some dynamic ability, so 4.49 speed, the ability to hit some home runs in the running game, and also catching the ball out of the backfield. And the same with Charles Sims. This is Charles Sims' 4th year in the league. He's entering a contract year, but Riley, 2 out of those 3 years, he's missed 8 games due to injury. When he's healthy, as he was in 2015, he was quite effective. We saw what he could do, making guys miss in the season opener against the Atlanta Falcons, catching that touchdown pass right before halftime. But when he's not healthy, he didn't help the team.
No, I think that obviously Doug, as you've mentioned, is a feast or famine runner, and it seems like Doug kind of follows a path in his career where he has a good season, he has a down season, a good season, a down season, and really I think the Bucs either need to make a decision. They obviously gave him the big extension, but I think they need to decide fairly soon if they're going to trust in Doug Martin as the team's number 1 back this year, or if they're just going to let him go and go to another team.
Well, we knew that the Buccaneers really had to get a running back, and there was a pool of running backs that this team liked. McNichols was I believe, on the tail end of that, and it shows the fact that he's a 5th-round pick when the team, if they really liked him, could have drafted him in the 3rd instead of trading him for Kendall Beckwith. So they viewed him lower than the Kareem Hunts and the Deontay Foremans and all of that. But it's certainly a pick that you can see in Tampa makes a lot of sense.
Worth noting, McNichols just said on the conference call for the media that he played 3 years as a receiver in high school, so he has good experience catching the football. May not have done it as much at Boise State, but it's still an option for him, and I still think he can. I still think he gave me an option there. I had a 5th-round grade on McNichols. I viewed him as a change of pace back, but I thought the value for where the Bucs got him was good.
The thing with McNichols, too, is they did throw him the ball more in 2015 than last year. 15 catches, 155 yards as a freshman, or actually, I guess as a sophomore. He's not a junior entry, he's a senior. Yeah, I think he is a junior entry.
Yes, junior entry.
Yep, junior. So his freshman year, 15 catches, 155 yards, and a touchdown. In 2015, 51 catches, 460 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Not a prolific yards after catch guy, only 9 yards per catch average. Last year was his career high, 474 yards, receiving yards with 37 catches, but a much healthier, more robust 12.8 yard average. Had a 76-yard catch and run, and ended up scoring 4 touchdowns. So Riley, he's a guy that has 11 receiving touchdowns, and in Dirk Cutter's offense, you have to be able to catch the ball. You don't have to be maybe as prolific as Charles Sims catching the ball, because I think he is really an elite pass-catching running back, but I think that's all he is at this stage of his career. But Jacquizz Rodgers can catch the ball. Doug Martin can catch the ball, and now Jeremy McNichols is a guy that I think probably has better hands than Doug Martin.
I think that I tend to agree that McNichols can be a pass catcher. Another thing to note with McNichols, I can have an official report here in a second, but medical reports pretty early on in the process after he declared for the draft, he's got a chronic shoulder issue in that right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something of note about longevity for him and as a potential maybe not getting a second contract out of this guy. Once again, we don't even know if this guy will make the team at this point, so I think we start worrying about longevity almost too soon, and I'm worrying about that too much. But I think it's worth note at least.
Yeah, and sometimes when players have surgeries to correct issues, it's over and done with. Sometimes those injuries can linger. They can come back and get you. And really, the Indianapolis Scouting Combine is about 2 things. It's not so much about the 40-yard dashes. It's not so much about all of the Olympic-style testing that's done there, because that stuff's done at the pro days as well. Really what the Combine is for is that first look at a lot of these players in the interview times. They only get 15 minutes with prospects, but sometimes these teams will get right to the heart of the matter and get a feel for these players' character, for their forthrightness. The Buccaneers come into Indianapolis Scouting Combine with a full history on the guy. That's what the local scouts do. They paint the picture of the guy, and then they want those interviews to put the finishing touches on their portraits, if you will. And the other big thing that the Combine is for, Riley, is for the medicals. The medical examinations, they put these guys through x-rays, MRIs, full battery of tests. Every injury that was revealed from their high school days, from college, those reports get updated and sent to the teams. Sometimes, if there's a question about a player, they'll have a player come in and do a visit, and then they'll have their own team doctors, give them an X-ray or an MRI just to double check things. And sometimes when players go to the Combine, they have maladies that are unknown. I think, who was it? There was a player that had a stress fracture. Was it Foreman?
Yes, Deonta Foreman, during Combine, first day of Combine, found in the medicals, obviously teams were excited to see Foreman run through drills. I projected that he would run a sub 4.540, and he ended up doing that at his pro day, but was held out of drills the next day to do that. I think it was in his leg, the stress fracture.
Yeah, and he didn't even realize it. He just felt like, well, I'm a runner and a little bit of foot pain. I played through it, but sometimes that indeed happens where they discover things and some abnormalities, some injuries. That's a big part of what the Combine's about. And so if there was a shoulder injury, it might have been a red flag that kept McNichols from rising up the draft board into maybe the 4th or the 3rd round. Instead, really pegged him as a 5th round. So a good pick for the Buccaneers. And I think a needed pick. This team needed another running back. I'm not sold on Peyton Barber. Not sold on Charles Sims.
I'm not exactly sold on really any of the Bucs running backs in full, to be honest. Real quick, for just an in-division pick, Falcons take Eric Saubert from Drake. Nice player, really a nice small school guy. good inline blocker, as well as some nice receiving capabilities. Small hands for his size, but I think that he can be a quality number 2 tight end for a while.
Well, I think the thing with Saubert, and I'll disagree with you a little bit. I think he's a willing blocker, but I think he's almost like Cam Brate. He's undersized. He's like 235. That's about how big Cam was coming out of Harvard. Cam's put on 10 pounds of muscle. Saubert will have to do the same thing. I talked to him at the East-West Shrine game, and the interesting thing about Saubert is he's faster. He's more of a 4.65, 4.7 guy, where Brate coming out was a 4.85 guy. So he does have some wheels. But he's undersized, where Cam, I think, is an inch or two taller in a little bit wider frame that could fill out. There are some size concerns with Saubert, but the guy can catch the ball. He can get yards after the catch. He was smoking everybody at the East-West Shrine, and he is more of that, I think, flex tight end. He can do his midline blocking, but just like how Cam Brate is not O.J. Howard, Saubert is not O.J. Howard type either. He is a pass catching guy, and you know what? That's just another weapon for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, Matt Ryan is drowning in offensive players to throw the ball to there. He's going to lobby to see if he can have 2 footballs for all of the weapons Atlanta has, and he's going to learn how to throw left-handed so he can pitch one with his right and one with his left, because Atlanta's offense is getting kind of ridiculous with the amount of weapons they have.
No, but just looking at the chat quick, yes, Darius Geis had a very nice game against New Bucks draft pick Justin Evans. He says that he shook him out at least half a dozen times. Yeah, but I think Darius Geis shakes most safeties out at least half a dozen times. Matthew Ferrant, yes, McNichols did have top 6 spark results in the combine. I'm sure that played in some Bucks draft pick of him. He had a really nice combine. I think that that probably rose him up most boards. I'm not sure if you're talking about Cam Sutton, Ken Grant, but yes, he went to the Steelers.
The thing about McNichols is when you're playing in the MAC, you're not challenged by a lot of those bigger programs. You know, against Washington, for example, and this is in 2015 against the Huskies. Boise State actually beat the Huskies 16-13 in the season opener. And McNichols had 24 carries, but for only 89 yards. And the Huskies defense is pretty stout. His longest run was a 19-yarder, but he scored two touchdowns. So that's one of those games where you're looking against bigger competition and in a better grade of talent he's going up against, rather than those other MAC schools that he faced. He had a string of 100-yard games, starting with Hawaii in 2015, 108 yards against the Rainbow Warriors, 104 yards against Colorado State, 166 against the Wyoming Cowboys, 122 against UNLV, 128 against the New Mexico Lobos, 151 against Air Force, 192 against San Jose State. In the bowl game against Northern Illinois, in which Boise crushed the Huskies, 19 carries for 93 yards. But that's the bigger question I have, is just against SEC schools, against Big Ten teams, ACC, Big 12. What did he do? There is a Big 12 defense that he went against in the Baylor Bears, and the Baylor Bears don't exactly have a tremendous defense. But in the bowl game this year, when Baylor beat Boise State, McNichols was held to 46 yards on 19 carries. His longest carry was 9 yards. And Baylor's defense, Riley, was not that great last year.
Definitely. No, I think that it's worth noting. I notice level of competition a little bit in my scouting reports always, but McNichols, I think, obviously, like you mentioned, playing in the MAC didn't always play against the best competition, but I think that it isn't nearly the issue that I think you might seem to think it is, and that I don't think it'll be that big of a transition to the next level.
Well, and the thing, too, is while I bring this up, you can't knock him because he doesn't have a choice on who he plays. He's not a schedule maker. You got to play who you got to play. And so he had a few opportunities outside the MAC to make the most of those opportunities. And running backs sometimes are beholden to the play of their offensive line. So I'm not going to hold that Baylor game against him. But it's just worth pointing out that he's one of those players that didn't exactly wow you when it comes to what has he done outside of the MAC. He did have an opportunity to play against Washington State, and again, to Boise's credit, Boise State beat Washington State in the second game of the season, 31-28, 22 carries, 126 yards, actually 22 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he was certainly a factor in wins over Washington and Washington State. So he's no slouch when it comes to out-of-conference competition. He just wasn't tested that much. And if you look at this year's stats, had a couple of 200-yard games. One of those actually came against Oregon State. Not exactly a powerhouse anymore in the Pac-12. The Beavers, they did beat them. Boise State went into Corvallis and beat Oregon State 38-24, and that was one of McNichols' better games. 28 carries, 208 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and the Broncos got the win 38-24. So,
real quick,
Yeah.
worth noting that receiver depth is still there on the board, really. Isaiah Ford, Noah Brown, Katie Cannon, Ishmael Zamora, Stacy Coley, and Demoria Stringfellow, as well as both LSU receivers in Traven Durrell and Malachi Dupree, all on the board still. So I think the receiver depth will be there in round 6 or 7 if the Bucs choose to take one.
Well, in round 6, they've given up their pick, so they have to move up in the 6th round somehow to do that, whether it's taking their 7 and maybe a draft pick next year or a player and moving up. But if you're looking at round 7 and you talk about wide receivers, we mentioned the word Baylor, and the guy that comes to mind is someone you mentioned, Katie Cannon. And don't you almost have to draft this guy, Riley? Fire the Cannons, Katie Cannon.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got the most pirate-esque name out there, unless his name was like Blackbeard or Jose Gaspar. But Katie Cannon is an interesting guy because he's got some real raw speed, kind of a straight line speed guy, and that's one thing too that I think when you look at this Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster now, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Deshaun Jackson, you've got Adam Humphries, and now you've got Chris Godwin. Those are 4 guys, but you need another one. And I'm not really sold outside of those 4 guys of anybody on this roster being a surefire bet to make this team. Whether it's Freddie Martino, whether it's Bernard Reedy, Dante Dye. There's a lot of guys that have the potential, to come on the scene, but they've had their opportunities, and I really haven't seen enough of those guys to make me want to say I feel good with this wide receiver roster is.
Oh no, I think that really outside of those top 4 guys, there really is no lock for the Bucs for a guy to make the Bucs roster. I think that, but like I said, talking about the receivers that are still available, Isaiah Ford is my number 11 receiver. Katie Cannon is my number 13 receiver. Fred Taylor, prolific receiver for Louisiana Tech, he's still on the board. He's my number 15 receiver.
I want to ask you about Trent Taylor. Carlos Henderson did a lot in the return game there at Louisiana Tech. Trent Taylor's short area quickness, it seems like he would be an ideal punt return, kick return guy. Did he do a lot of that at Louisiana Tech, or was that more Carlos Henderson's job?
No, that was Carlos Henderson's specialty there at Louisiana Tech for the Bulldogs. He was the lead special teams guy. Taylor is more quicker than fast, I would say. He ran a 4.63 40 at the combine, which I would still say isn't great or indicative of his actual play speed. But I think that he's a slot guy who you run out of the slot, who you can play in the slot, and but I don't think this team would really come near a guy like Trent, just because I think they're fine with Adam Humphries and Chris Godwin, who they've already addressed as guys in the slot.
We're going to go to the plank here on pewterreport.com. And I'm going to be posting this here. Let's see here. I actually think looking through at the undrafted free agents is more exciting than these later rounds.
Oh no, definitely.
I do too. I agree. When you look at the track record of this team, whether it's going way back before your time even, Clifton Smith finding a Pro Bowl kick and punt return guy that actually was better than their second round draft pick in 2008, Dexter Jackson. I saw DeMar Dotson come in, in 2009 and work his way from a training camp tryout guy to become the starting right tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You've seen Adam Humphries be that guy too, to come in as a tryout guy and end up making the roster, getting signed, and now is a kick return guy. There's your guy, Trent Taylor.
There's my guy Trent Taylor off the board to the Redskins. That's a guy who will compete for a roster spot, run out of the slot. I jumped on the 49ers bandwagon a while back once they hired Kyle Shanahan, but I'm just affirms that for me. Checking through the chat here. I guess I'm just checking through the chat. Sorry. Stacey Cole. Yes, Stacey Cole is still on the board. Stacey's really talented. I think he's a really nice player, but he has certainly had some issues. With the East-West Shrine game,
Didn't elect to go.
didn't elect to go.
He was invited. They
no.
wanted him there.
Wanted him there. He said it was a personal emergency, but apparently the people who run the Shrine game had called him to confirm that he couldn't come to the event, and Stacey would not respond. There have been reports that he didn't really have issues in college, but in high school, in that Miami area, had some issues, immaturity issues. So I think that's probably the main reason why Stacey is slipping so far. But I still think the talent is there. He would have been my, without the off-field issues, would have been my number 11 receiver, but I kind of slipped down the board a little bit because of that.
We're looking at the Dolphins selection here. Bradshaw from LSU going to Miami.
Devon has had some off-field issues in the past, accused of domestic violence last year, but is certainly talented. I give him a third-round grade on film. I think he's got a lot of upside.
Another one of your favorite receivers, D'Angelo Yancey from Purdue, went to the Packers.
D'Angelo, just in my opinion, was one of the better pure deep threats in the draft. Really, if you just press play on the tape, really nice upside, nice creates separation, breaks away. Tanzel Spartan is also still on the board. Tanzel, another guy who I have fairly high, top 70 guy for me on my board. Really like what Tanzel brings to the table inside. He can play 3-tech or nose. They can play inside 3-tech or nose. I think that's a very nice pick if you can get him later here.
So, one of the things we do at pewterreport.com is we have in our position previews each year the Bucks' best bets, where if they're going to take a player at the position, and we do quarterback, we do running back, tight end, wide receiver, we do offensive tackle, we do guard center, we do defensive end, we do defensive tackle, we do linebacker, cornerback, and then safety. And so in all of those previews, we look and we say, who would be the best fit for the Buccaneers if they were to draft one of these guys, if they were to draft a quarterback in rounds, say, 1 through 3, if they were to draft a quarterback in rounds 4 through 7, or a running back 1 through 3, or a running back 4 through 7, who would it be? So we hit on Chris Godwin this year. He was our Bucks' best bet for the early wide receiver, and we've had a very good track record over the years of hitting some of these guys. We had Danny Vitale last year as a running back. We hit Vernon Hargraves as if they're going to draft a cornerback, it's going to be him. That was kind of a no-brainer, but we'll still take credit for it. We hit Jameis Winston, 2015, and so we hit on Chris Godwin. The only Bucks' best bets that we have left now, and the Buccaneers have a 7th-round pick. I'll run through them here. We had Nathan Peterman if they were to draft a quarterback to back up Jameis Winston. We still have one alive here as a late-round Bucks' best bet at quarterback, Pennsylvania quarterback Alec Torgerson. Not sure that they're going to draft a quarterback, but if they do, it might be Alec Torgerson, and we'll be able to get 2. Our running backs, Bucks' best bets were Marlon Mack and Kareem Hunt, both those guys off the board. Mack a lot later than people thought. At receiver, it was Chris Godwin and Shelton Gibson. Gibson is already gone to Philadelphia, so that position is closed out. As is the tight end position, we had David Njoku, not expecting that O.J. Howard would be there. So I'm not feeling bad about that at all. Neither did Jason Light, neither did Dirk Cutter. So Njoku was the Bucks' best bet early. Late, it was Michael Roberts, who went to the Detroit Lions. Good pick there. Offensive tackles, Garrett Bowles, if the Bucks were to draft an offensive tackle, we figured it might be early. Garrett Bowles, Julian Davenport was the second guy for the later rounds. Guard, Western Kentucky Forrest Lamp, and then Utah guard Isaac Asiata, who's also off the board, so that's closed out. We're still alive at defensive end, Riley. We've got Kansas State Jordan Willis in the first. He slid a lot further than I expected. But we have Tennessee Chattanooga defensive end Keontae Davis, who is still available. I don't know if he'll make it past the 6th round. We'll have to wait and see. The Bucks don't have a 6th round pick. They're coming up in the 7th round. Defensive tackle Grover Stewart is already gone, but we have Missouri defensive tackle Josh Augusta, who is a big, massive man. You saw him firsthand up in St. Petersburg at the East-West Shrine Game.
Oh no, Josh, actually has some pretty good wheels on him. Video of him running a 40-yard dash was comical, but he got in under 5 seconds at 365 pounds, which is not bad at all. So, I think he can just be a run stopper inside. I think this team has Silver Salinga, who they got back in free agency. I think he's probably the top guy in terms of 4th defensive tackle the Bucks keep on roster for goal line packages as a run stopper.
Right.
But I think as a priority undrafted free agent, maybe that pick 237 that the Bucks have coming up in around 2 rounds or so, he could be an option.
Yeah, and the thing too is you always want to build your roster from the bottom up. You want to have really good backups that are going to eventually develop into starters or push the starters for their positions. Now, no one's going to unseat Gerald McCoy or Chris Baker, but you have to look at Clinton McDonald, who's getting up there, and Clinton is one of those try-hard guys that plays so hard that he gets injured, and he's had 2 seasons in Tampa, 3 seasons, I guess, where he has not been able to play all 16 games. And with Silver Saliga, he is a guy that really is a specialist. He is, like you said, a run-stuffing specialist, short yardage, goal line defender. Actually got a sack last year, so I got to say he's got some pass rush game. But a player like Josh Augusta could come in and challenge him and push him. That's one of the things the Buccaneers want to do. They want to get bigger up front with the defensive line, and boy, Josh Augusta could kind of fit that bill. The other 2 spots, or the other 3 spots, linebackers, both of those guys off the board, Bucks' best bets. We had Ryan Anderson and Samson Abukum. We did not see the Kendall Beckwith pick coming at all. I don't think anybody did. And cornerbacks, Adoree Jackson, who the Bucks would have taken at number 19 if O.J. Howard was not going to be there. They liked him an awful lot. And then Corn Elder, who went off the board as well. And we do have an option at safety. Washington safety Buda Baker was our early round Bucks best bet. Louisiana Tech safety Xavier Woods has not been taken yet, Riley. So I don't know if the Buccaneers will double up on safeties, but with Chris Conte being signed to a 1-year deal, Keith Tandy actually in a contract year this year. J.J. Wilcox is a newcomer, and they've already spent a 2nd round pick on Justin Evans. I'm not saying that the safety position is one of need, but when you look past 2017, at who is on the roster, who is slated to be on the roster, you've got J.J. Wilcox, you've got Justin Evans. Tandy's a free agent, and so is Conte. So it's not out of the question, especially from a special team standpoint, because when you pick really in the 6th and 7th round, you're getting a guy that has to cover kicks or punts or return them, and that's something Xavier Woods can do. He blocked a punt at Louisiana Tech. He fits the traits of a special teams guy. We ran a 4.51 at his pro day. Has got kind of a dog mentality. He's a fighter, very good IQ when it comes to football. Wouldn't be surprised to see them draft him as an up-and-coming safety, because that's how Keith Tandy started out, as a special teamer that developed into a starting caliber safety. So between Xavier Woods, Josh Augusta, quarterback Alec Torgerson, and defensive end from Tennessee Chattanooga Keontae Davis, 4 Bucks best bets alive.
Xavier Woods, I agree that he can be a special teams ace, but I think that he reminds me a lot of T.J. Ward, who's with the Denver Broncos now. But it's a hard hitter who can play in coverage, play in the box, kind of versatile, play everywhere you need him to. I've been talking him up since last summer, really, when I started watching some of his tape. Nice week of the East-West running game. He would be a great pick at 237. I just don't know he lasts that long.
Question here from Juan SR. Why have the Bucks? Why haven't the Bucks gone for former Lions defensive end Devin Taylor? Not sure. I really don't know. If they haven't, I can assure you that they have. I can assure you that they have gone the extra mile and scouted him, and they just came to the conclusion that they don't want him. I would take a flyer on a pass rusher. Yeah, that's where Keontae Davis can come in. He was actually at the Senior Bowl and had really good production. He's kind of like a poor man's Jordan Willis in that he's not as fast and as athletic as Jordan Willis was, but not as talented either. But the production was there. Had over 20 sacks in college. He is, like I said, our Bucks' best bet for the second day. The problem is, though, is you take, you really need some special teams guys on the second day. And, is he a guy that can run down and cover kicks? I don't know. And you don't really want your pass rushers to do that. Riley, that's what happened last year in week 1 when Jacquez Smith, who was the second leading sacker for the Buccaneers for 2 previous years, was running down covering a punt and tore his ACL in the first quarter of the Atlanta Falcons game, was out for the year. And the Buccaneers pass rush suffered a bit because they had to rely so heavily on a rookie to come in and get extended playing time in Noah Spence. And Noah had a decent rookie season, 5.5 sacks, but at the same time, that's tough to ask from your pass rushers to come in and play special teams.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I think pass rushers, it's a special skill to have that. I believe Bucks brought in, I think he's now with the Chiefs. They brought in a special teamer for about 2 weeks, a couple years ago. Just pure special teams player. I think that's really valuable, just because so many guys at that height and weight sometimes, and that kind of physicality, just can't run that fast that quickly.
Yeah,
in turn directions.
The core special teams players are safeties, corners, wide receivers, running backs, linebackers. Those are the typical guys. We are graced with the presence of the man bun himself.
That's not gracing. I'm taking Riley's spot. So
Okay, Riley, you're being summoned by your father. It's not that you're grounded. He probably just wants to put you to work.
Exactly.
So you've gone from working from us to working to Dad now.
Transcribing. But anyways, thanks for having me on. A lot of fun doing this. That was been on here since about 1:15ish. So
yes.
So I've been going for a while. So it's been like 2 hours, like 2 hours or so. So I've been fun. Thanks for interacting. Been a lot of fun things to do. So I've been staying the whole time. Means a lot. Go Bucks.
Hey, and listen, you got to make sure this guy's a must follow on Twitter.
He is.
At Junior Almanac, not Almanac. You got to think Greg Allman here. This is his spawn. This is the brains of the operation over at the Tampa Bay Times. Don't think it's Rick Stroud or Tom Jones or Greg Allman. It's really this guy right here, Riley, and he's a future reporter too. So we're grooming him right now. He's on the Times side. We're slowly bringing him over to the Pewter Report side. But it's been a pleasure to have you, and we'll do this again.
Definitely. Excited for undrafted recap later.
Let's do it. Yeah. And now we're welcoming in. Currently the youngest.
They don't care. They don't care. I'm just gonna be on my phone the whole time.
Exactly. Hey, let's see some of those. Those tweets. Those new names for Trevor. He is at Tampa Bay Trey.
Oh wait, people came up with new handles
we
for
had
me.
some yesterday. I'm at Chipotle.
Yes.
At Man Bun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we need some of your suggestions. So.
Oh, next year when I put out a mock draft, I'm call it the Man Bun mock draft. If I still have a Man Bun, then.
Yeah.
It might be. It'll either be like fully evolved into something we've never seen before, or I'll just cut it all off and look like a normal human being again. Riley was great, huh?
Yeah, very cool.
If this is the first time you've been able to interact with Riley, you know why we speak so highly of him now on social media and everything. So give him a follow. He's great.
Yep. Let's see. Javancy Jones, yet one of my favorite players. Just in talking to him, getting to know his story and what the guy can do. He is a guy that's interesting because he has some pass rush potential. he is built similarly. He's probably like an inch shorter than Noah Spence and probably about 5 pounds lighter. But Javancy Jones was coached by Paul Spicer for a season at Jackson State. And so there's a connection there to the
So
Buccaneers.
if he likes him, he might go to bat for him.
Yeah.
Um,
Javancy Jones, but I'll tell you what, I think the Steelers are going to get him. And I question whether the Buccaneers will get him because they've already drafted a linebacker, a Sam linebacker type, in Kendall Beckwith. But this is a guy who can play not just Sam linebacker, but it can also play defensive end.
that's his handle, right?
Yes, at Junior Almanac. It's like Almanac, but it's like a play on words.
I'm gonna make sure I get this right.
Obviously not as many people as were with us Thursday night or Friday night for
Yeah, you guys are the hardcore
picks
fans.
1, 2, 3, and 3 again.
So let's talk about this. How did Rodney Adams go above Isaiah Ford, Noah Brown, Katie Cannon,
Yeah.
Stacy Coley, Demoria Stringfellow, Malachi Dupree,
He ran
Traven
really fast.
Durrell?
He ran really fast.
Rodney went above all these guys. All these guys are still on the board.
But
How?
I'm
man?
not a fan of the LSU receivers. Malachi,
That's fine.
not a fan. I'm not a fan of
You-
Isaiah Ford either. Not a fan.
But like, not a fan as much. Like, not a fan. I'm gonna pick Rodney Adams over him. Because there's a difference between being not a fan of Isaiah Ford as a second, third round pick,
Yeah.
and picking Rodney Adams over him.
Yeah. Yep.
What's up, Joe?
Dreads for next year. There you go.
Oh man,
Juan is
I'll
saying
get.
dreads for next year.
You guys seen like Derrick Henry's haircut right now? He's got like dreads, but he like pulls it up. I know speed kills, but like Katie Cannon's a speed guy.
But you know, Katie Cannon, and I watch a lot of Big 12 football. I'm the resident Big
He
12
does.
guy.
He is.
He is more of a straight line kind of guy, and he does drop a lot of passes. He had a great game against Boise State. It was a nice exclamation point, in his career. But I like what the Eagles are doing. Donald Pumphrey and Shelton Gibson on
Those are
day
just
3 there.
playmakers. They're getting playmakers for
But-
sure.
But that's kind of the knock on Katie Cannon is he's not plus sized like Chris Godwin is. This is a guy who's 5'10", about 190 pounds, 5'11", something like that. Runs pretty fast, has some special teams proficiency to his game. He can be
I like
a
Katie
coverage
Cannon
guy.
too.
Yeah, and plus too, I was just telling this to Riley.
Mhm.
Katie Cannon, fire the cannons. I mean, that's just a natural Tampa Bay Buccaneer fit. In round 7,
Prepare for cannon fire. Like,
Exactly.
come on,
Yeah.
man. It's all
Yeah.
right there.
fire the cannons, Katie Cannon, touchdown, Buccaneers. I mean, can't you hear
I think that was
Gene Deckerhoff
I think it
doing
was
that?
terrible, Gene Deckerhoff, but I knew what you were going
Yeah,
for.
Mark Cook does a much better one.
Mark Cook does it. Well, I mean, he gets to hear him twice because his Florida
Yeah,
State game
he gets it
right?
down
So
pat.
yeah,
So yeah, Katie Cannon is pretty good. We got a couple questions here, Trevor,
Sure.
from the plank.
yes.
What is your opinion of the meltdown of certain posters on the board over our draft picks? I kid. I would just say this, and I said this a little earlier. I'm going to write about it. I'm going to just beat this drum for you guys. I was not sold on the Quan Alexander pick at all on draft day. But you got to wait until these guys get in pads and see how they fit in the schemes. Sometimes they're asked to do things in college. Like Quan was a Sam linebacker, Trevor. And a lot of the time when you're a Sam linebacker, what are you doing? You're covering tight ends. You're covering running backs. You're not
Sure.
having the opportunity sometimes to make tackles because, you're covering a guy down the field. So the tackles weren't there. The splash plays weren't there. But the traits were there. The football character was there. Quan was just as much of a dog at LSU in terms of that, mean, fiery guy, that passionate football player as he was in Tampa Bay playing middle linebacker. But the difference, Trevor, was when they put him in middle linebacker in the scheme, whether it's Lovey's scheme or Mike Smith's scheme, the middle linebacker is going to get a lot more action, a lot more tackles, a lot more opportunities for blitzing. And so that was an opportunity where they projected Quan as a middle linebacker
Mm-hmm.
because he had the traits.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I'm not saying Justin Evans wasn't asked to do things at Texas A&M that he's going to be asked to do in Tampa, but sometimes you have to consider that, though.
Yeah.
And you have to consider the coaching, too. Brett Maxey's a hell of a secondaries coach. He can coach some safeties now. I think he's going to bring out the best in Justin Evans. So
And it might take time.
Caleb Brantley to the Cleveland Browns. Round 6, Caleb Brantley.
Wow.
In your opinion, where was Caleb Brantley? What round? If take away all of the
Top of the second.
the drama.
Top of the second.
He's a top 50
He's
player.
a monster. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just say that. Besides Howard, of our picks in rounds 2 through 5, who do you think is going to have the most impact for the Bucks in 2017? Well, I think that the guy with the most impact is going to end up being Justin Evans. I think that Justin Evans, because it's a
You think
second
he's going to
rounder,
be the what?
I think that he's going to have. See, look at you, Belinda. You're on your phone twittering.
Sorry.
You're not paying attention.
Stuff's going on.
I think Justin Evans, by virtue of the fact he's a second round pick, is going to be given the benefit of the doubt, and he's going to be given the opportunity to really start. They're going to thrust him and say, we're going to put you in as a starter until you prove us that you can't. And then we'll put in Tandy, or we'll put in J.J. Wilcox, or what have you, and then have you learn, behind the scenes. But I think they're going to put him in right away and see what this kid can do. So I think that by virtue of the fact that he's the second pick, I think that he is going to be the guy that's going to have the most impact. I mean, it's either him or it's Chris Godwin. We know Kendall Beckwith is not going to have an impact for a while.
Yeah.
And is Jeremy McNichols going to
I'm
have
gonna
that much of an impact?
I'm gonna say, like, how tempted am I to say Jeremy McNichols? Because if they really think that he's the Doug Martin clone, Martin can't do anything about his potential starting spot for the first 3 weeks.
Right.
And McNichols is probably gonna play. So
He's going to play ahead of Charles Sims in the running game.
yeah, for sure. And at that point, I mean, they're not going to get rid of any of their running backs before they have to. But
Any chance the team trades up into
Tempted to say
the
McNichols.
sixth? Maybe for a player like Hendrickson, and I think they mean Trey Hendrickson, but
he's
he's already
gone.
off the board.
Yeah, he's already off the board. He's in.
Yeah.
He's in New Orleans.
So, and that follows up. We have another question here, Bucko Deuce. Brian Cox Jr. might fit the Bucks' perceived desire to play more of a 3-4 and can put his hand in the ground as a 4-3 end. Brian Cox, do you think that there is some love for the Buccaneers for Brian Cox? I know that our Bucks' best bet at the defensive end position in the second day is Keontae Davis from Tennessee, Chattanooga. They were at his pro day.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a much more productive pass rusher than Brian Cox. But Brian Cox was a former Buccaneer coach. He was a former Atlanta Falcons coach with Mike Smith.
Yeah.
They know Brian Cox by
And they-
virtue of his dad.
And they sent Jay Hayes to Florida's pro day,
Yep.
right? So I mean, he was there. He checked them out. And I will say that as a Florida Gator fan, I've watched a lot of Florida Gator games, and Brian Cox was never really even an okay pass rusher to me. He was just like an edge guy who was kind of a run stopper. But really, in the East-West Shrine game and the
He
East-West
showed well
Shrine
there.
practices,
He
he
showed
showed way more stuff as a pass rusher than I feel like I saw in the last 2 years. I know he's kind of hurt, so I would actually be open to the idea of bringing Brian Cox in if they did for that late round pick, because they only have one pick left so far. As it stands right now, it's going to be in the 7th round, so I'd be okay with that. I think they're all right on the defensive line, though, in terms of depth. Their interior is pretty solid. Golston,
Yeah, usually in the
Ayers,
in the 7th
Spence,
round.
Smith. Is Cox even playing at that point?
Yeah.
Unless you really think he's a special teamer,
Well,
right?
that's the problem. Is
Is he even making the team at that point?
what Brian Tech is a future 3 tech? I don't know.
No,
don't
he's
see
not
that.
an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah.
No.
What are your thoughts on the draft for the Bucks thus far? Well, you know what, we're actually going to hold that thought because that's kind of the thrust of one of our articles that we're doing.
Can't give it to y'all
Yeah.
right away. Was there another question? I feel like there was another question. Oh, I was going to say something about Justin Evans, and then I totally forgot about it.
Okay.
Oh, Keith Tandy. It took what? Keith Tandy 4 years to kind of figure it out.
Yes.
You know, and now he's a starting caliber safety for this team, but it took Keith Tandy 4 years to figure it out.
I actually think right now Keith Tandy's the best safety on this team, in my opinion. I don't know if the coaches share that view, but
It's very
you
difficult.
put the kid out there and he makes plays.
It's difficult to argue that and I'll tell you why. Because people look at Keith Tandy and they think, oh, he is very replaceable. Okay, that's fine athleticism wise, but when you talk about Mike Smith's defense, where they are right now,
Instincts.
anticipation and instincts are everything. That's what you have to have, and that's probably why they ended up letting Bradley McDougald go, because that was probably an aspect that we overthought or let it flow, go right over our head, is to think about that part of playing in a Mike Smith defense, and there is no safety on this team right now that has better instincts and anticipation than Keith Tandy for sure.
Let's just bring it to the forefront. Bradley McDougald was a KU Jayhawk too, so there's that factor. I mean, there's a suck factor there when you're talking about the Jayhawks. There just is. So that's part of it.
Man, that is it.
Yeah. Well, Jason Light's a Big 12 guy. He was a big Nebraska fan. Went to
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
And when they cut McDougald,
Did he like Tommy Armstrong? Do you know the quarterback? You ever talk to him
I don't
about
know.
that? Just
Yeah.
like back and forth, just like shooting.
I
it a little?
typically don't like to talk about Nebraska players or the program because we were like their whipping boy for so many years. Seriously, my first game at Kansas State this is how bad Kansas State football was before Bill Snyder got there. Kansas State's football program sold their Kansas State Nebraska game, because they were both in the Big 8 at that time, then the Big 12.
The Big 8.
They sold the K-State Nebraska game, home game for K-State, back to Nebraska for more money, Trevor. They said, oh,
Why?
because they got more money. The athletic department sold that game and said, instead of us hosting Nebraska and having all those Nebraska fans come down here, we'll actually make more money if you just pay to host the game up there in Lincoln. And that happened for a couple years. It did. How embarrassing is that?
Very.
Okay, that's how awful
It's
our football
extremely
program
embarrassing.
was. So Bill Snyder comes in and says, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to be, we're going to get our asses kicked for a while until we build this thing, but we're going to build it. So I want to say,
How long has he been there?
this is his 26th year, or
Phew.
25th year, something like that.
Man.
He's 77 years old. But here's the thing. So Nebraska actually came to Kansas State for the first time like in 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at that game, and there were more Nebraska fans there than Kansas State fans.
Yikes.
It's just crazy. Yeah.
It's like when you go to a Yankees-Rays game.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah. Like you walk in, you see this sea of red, and you're like, am I in the wrong state?
Yep.
Well, again, sticking with defensive ends, the last defensive end guy that we have, our Buck's best bet, is Keontae Davis from Chattanooga, and he was a player at the Senior Bowl that it didn't really stand out like Tano Passigno or even Terrell Basham did. And sometimes those small school guys use the Senior Bowl to have that opportunity to rise and shine. And I will say that he didn't really do that. He didn't really stand out that much. But the production's there. He is an okay athlete. He's not a tremendous athlete. But when you look at his production, 1.5 as a freshman, 5.5 sacks as a sophomore, 13.5 as a junior, 10 sacks as a senior. So he can get to the
That's
quarterback.
plenty of production. Yeah.
So if they're looking for a flyer, they might take a shot at him. But again, usually in the 6th and 7th round, they're looking for guys that can contribute in special teams.
Yep. And I'm trying to think of maybe any wide receivers that
Cornerbacks?
could.
Yeah.
Really, it's DBs or wide receivers you're looking at in the later round if you're talking about contributing.
Or
on special
linebacker,
teams.
but I think right
that
now
too. Yeah,
with Kendall Beckwith, I think that they've got their guy there because they like Adarius Lynn. They're going to give Devontae Bond every shot, and they're only going to keep 6 linebackers. So let's do the quick math on that. Quan Alexander, Levante David, Adarius Linton. Well, Beckwith will probably start the season on PUP, so there'll be a roster exemption there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Devontae Bond, the CFL kid, Jeff Knox. He's got a shot because he's a very good special teamer. So that's 5 right there. So you have a spot for one more, and it will be Beckwith when he is reactivated. But will they take another?
Who's going to be the kick returner and a punt returner?
I don't know. You know, Jason Light yesterday was asked about that question. You know, can Justin Evans return kicks? You know, listen.
Godwin
I-
potentially.
Yeah, Godwin didn't do it at Penn State. I don't.
Evans did all, he averaged 28.
Is Hargraves gonna do it?
You know what?
Starting corner doing it?
When someone like Jason says, "Well, we have a lot lot it really means you don't have somebody. That's really what it means. It's kind of like,
Again.
for the
Well, let's
second
not
year.
forget Josh Huffman's still in this roster.
God,
So
no,
they're fine.
no.
No, I forgot.
Face on tough.
Well, and listen too. I mean, Jason tried
Godwin or Evans.
in earnest to get a kick return guy in Kalen Flake.
Jameis can do kick returns. Thank you, John.
He's elusive.
He is. Did you see the Bears game?
Yeah.
You just avoiding guys?
Let's go back to the plank here. We got some more questions.
Okay.
Who might we target
Ooh,
in the
Tanzel
seventh?
Smart. I like that pick for the Rams.
Yeah.
It's a
Something that
second.
might be a second.
We've
okay.
kind of talked
It's a
about
second
that in the
Rams
seventh. Mark, I'm going to email you that story. Yep, that's why you're in here. So I'll let you lead now. Emailing the story in memento.
Just you could ask the question, I'll answer, and you can send the email over.
Brian Cox. Question: do you think the trade up for Beckwith indicates the Bucks might have been the victim of previous trades ahead of us, aka the Vikings for Cook? In other words, you know, did they get a little gun shy,
You
a little
are,
jumpy?
boy, they are assuming that the Bucks were going to draft Cook.
I'm telling you,
They were not.
We've written that they were going to pass on him
They
in the
were
second
not.
round.
So I don't know. The premise of that question kind of assumes that the Bucks wanted Cook and then didn't get him.
Yeah.
And I think if the Bucks wanted Cook, they would have been able to move up because there were plenty of teams at the top of the second round that were probably looking to move down.
And Trevor, we were antsy for a running back for this team, but the team itself was not
No,
antsy because
no, they
they
weren't.
waited until the fifth. They had ample opportunity in the third
Yeah.
to get a Kareem Hunt or whoever else they liked. They had an ample opportunity in trading up in the bottom of the third round to get a Marlon Mack or whoever else they liked. They could have taken, you know, Jeremy McNichols if they were jonesing for a running back and they
Mhm.
were scared that one of those guys wasn't going to be there. They could have done that, but they didn't. So, do you think that the Kendall Beckwith move was a panicked move that he wasn't going to be there in the fourth round?
I think that the move up for Beckwith was more of, and Jason said this yesterday, he said the word trust your board. And there are a couple different ways that you can attack the NFL draft. One of them is that you can really do a lot of your homework beforehand, and that is the kind of staff and draft strategy that Jason has, let me tell you, because he told us our board's basically set before the combine. Like their board, he said that their board is basically set when they go to Indianapolis because they don't want the athletic numbers to determine or play too big of a role in the evaluations that they have for these guys in their actual game tape when they play on pads. So I think that he takes that approach, and because of that, we see him more of a stick to your board kind of strategy rather than play the value strategy, because I think that he saw some linebackers start to go, and he got a little freaked out because he knew that Beckwith was the kind of guy that he wanted, so he traded up for him. But I really think that Beckwith would have been there at their pick in the fourth round. So I think that Jason Light thinks less of the draft as a value game and more of an opportunity for him to go get the players that he likes. And so you can do a little bit of both with each strategy, but there are certainly some teams, you know, a lot of the ones that you see trade back all the time, and the ones that you see do moving where they're gaining things, who have maybe a better grasp on what the other teams are thinking, whereas Jason Light doesn't really. I'm sure he has a pulse on what other teams want and are thinking, but I think that Jason
He's not
knows
dictated by
his
that, right?
guys and
Yeah.
just wants the. It's basically like
It's almost like
our
tunnel
guys.
vision a little
It's
bit.
like our guys versus your guys, and we talked about this when we talked about him drafting people to possibly counter the Panthers or the Saints. Jason Light, I don't think Jason Light or Dirk Cutter are of that mold or mindset.
Yeah.
I think they are. Our best is better than your best, and I think that's what Jason. That's the way that I think Jason drafts. My board's better than your board.
And I think too, it's not, they're not reactionary.
Yeah.
In their approach, it's we like our guys and we're going to take our guys, and And if anything, we want to draft players that you're going to have to react to rather than us. And that might be a little bit of machismo there.
Sure, right,
by
right.
lightning cutter. But you know what? That's what football's all about.
Yeah, that's just definitely a
No
bullish.
pussies allowed.
It's definitely a bullish mindset, and I don't want to use the. It's a word that is not as harsh as the word ignorance. Like maybe you're just having. I think tunnel vision. There you go. That was a good way to say it. Maybe you're having a little bit of tunnel vision on the guys that you want. Sometimes maybe a little bit too much of tunnel vision. We'll see with this Beckwith pick. The Roberto Aguayo pick. That was a lot of tunnel vision, and that wasn't really allowing some of the value that was coming to them to really take full effect. And for them to possibly get this pick at a better value or at a better spot or blah, 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 because I think that Jason Light is of the mindset that we do our homework early, we've got our board early, and we stick by it. That is what we think that we do a better job at scouting prospects and setting our board than you do, and we're going to trust it at the end, no matter how the draft itself falls.
Bucking Up says, seriously believe Godwin will beat out Hump for the slot, and Evans will be our starting safety, so tough to pick one. I'll tell you what, though, I think Godwin is going to be used more as an outside wide receiver. I think he only played 13 snaps in the slot in his college career.
I like Jackson in the slot.
Yeah, I think you could see some of that for sure. Not exclusively, mind you, but
sure, yeah.
But again, and I'll stick to this, and this is not necessarily what I have heard from anybody in the Bucs organization, but with Deshaun Jackson turning 31 this year, with him playing in the heat and humidity of the Tampa Bay area, and in him having a little bit of an injury history where he will have some hamstring issues or leg issues, I think, Trevor, they're going to want to keep this guy fresh and healthy for 16 games.
Yeah.
And so for you to be able to do that, he's going to need a breather. He's not going to be an every single down wide receiver like Mike Evans, where he's going to end up with 95% of the offensive snaps in every game.
No.
I think it's going to be maybe 70%, maybe around that number.
I think they're going to...
And then Chris Godwin's going to have that role. When Deshaun Jackson comes off the field, Chris Godwin comes on the field. And as you talked about yesterday, and I thought it was a good point, worth repeating, because they're different players, it gives your offense a different dimension, and you have to defend that differently with different personnel maybe. Because 6'1", 209, and a 4'4" guy is a heck of a lot different than a 5'10", 180-pound guy who runs a 4.35.
Yeah, right. No, there's a difference there, and I think that even we're going to see plenty of personnel where all of them are on the field at the same time. But I think you are right. And even beyond the Florida Heat and playing down in Florida, I think that they are going to rest and strategically use Jackson to where they can make sure they're getting that 4-3 guy when he's on the field. Yeah. You don't want to run Jackson into the ground and 5-6 plays later, you're turning him into a 4-5 guy.
If it's a close
That's
game,
a bad waste of your talent.
If it's a close game, you need him as a closer. You need him out there making the big play in the fourth quarter, the big touchdown bomb that might win the game for you. So I think Godwin, as a rookie, is going to come in, learn this offense, but be used outside to help spell him. And also, too, if Mike Evans were to go down with an injury, then I think he steps in as the number 2 receiver. Jackson goes, to number 1.
Which man, this 7th pick we're talking about here, I'm looking at a lot of the wide receivers on the board.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, if Noah Brown's there, and I have no idea if the Bucs are interested in Noah Brown, like at all.
Yeah.
I take a guy like that because Mike Evans gets hurt. And we talked about this when we brought up the backup quarterback point not too long ago. He was in a podcast or something.
Yeah.
Jameis goes down for 1 or 2 weeks. That's crucial for this team. You still got to be able to somehow win these games.
Yes.
And to an even better point, Mike Evans.
Xavier Woods going to Carolina. Wow.
God, Carolina's good.
Wow,
They're having
man.
a good draft.
Yeah.
They're having a really
The
good
Panthers have
draft.
actually taken 2 of our Bucs' best bets, Corn Elder, and
this is a Panthers blog now, guys.
Yeah.
Pewter Panther Report. Panther Report, actually.
Exactly.
So,
Xavier Woods is a hell of a good player.
Trevor, what's your opinion on Freddie Stevenson? That's the fullback from Florida State.
Yeah.
Not a big fullback scouter. I just think that if fullback is either a 7th-round pick or an undrafted
You know
free
what?
agent, so it all depends on what teams like to use him for.
He stood out to me for his ability to run the ball, catch the ball,
I think
be
he's
a jack of all trades.
Yeah, he's a
at the
complete
Senior
fullback.
Bowl.
Yeah,
He had a good showing at the Senior Bowl. However, I watched some of the tape at Florida State. This guy is not a road grader as a blocker. He's more of a get in your way kind of guy.
Hmm.
But he is not a put you on your ass type fullback. I thought, well, gosh, let's look at Dalvin Cook's secret weapon here. The reason why he was so prolific at Florida State, and I saw so many.
he said
highlights
Woods.
of
He
this.
said Woods went to Dallas.
Oh,
Maybe
God.
we were just seeing
Okay,
Carolina up there.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see. The selection is Alex Armand. Okay.
Okay,
Feel better about that now. Yeah.
so we're
I got-
Cowboys
I
report.
gotta text my I was gonna say I text my good buddy Rick Zoyce here. He's a Cowboys fan, and he's already texted me. He said, "We just stole the safety I wanted in the 6th round. Xavier Woods loved the pick."
Concerned about Elliott as our nickel corner. Am I? Yes. Am I concerned about JV and Elliott? Yes, but this team seems to be pretty high on him. And I will say, I think he got his first start at nickel in the Cowboys game.
Yep.
And he showed a lot of energy.
Yes.
And I know, first NFL start, I think that was his first NFL start.
Right.
So he was, he was kind of pumped out of his mind. But I think we're noticing that where JV and Elliott might be a nice player, and even like Jude might be a nice player, I think the NFL is going to a point where you can't just have nice players as corners. And so, you've got to step up a little bit more than what we've even seen from Elliott, especially because he was a rookie, or even Jude. We've got those two kind of have to start
You
stepping
truly
up here,
have to have 3 starting caliber corners.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not like Madden where the
Right.
third highest overall guy is just playing your nickel and you're cool with it.
And that was kind of the Bucs' thinking when you look at why they were so high on Adoree Jackson. Because, Trevor, you would have had your starting cornerbacks, Brent Grimes as the left corner,
Mhm.
and then either Adoree Jackson or Vernon Hargraves in the slot, and then the other one at right cornerback. That's how this would have played out. And that gives you 3 starting caliber corners. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Jude Barima is not a super talented nickelback. I thought he made a ton of progress. I don't know where his ceiling is, if he's hitting it.
He just still
Or-
has to get better.
Yeah, he does.
Especially in a division that just has Atlanta's offense.
Right.
When you look at Taylor Gabriel always playing in the slot. Now
Yeah.
you look at Carolina, they're always going to have Christian McCaffrey or Samuel in the spot.
Yep.
So that's just the reality of it.
And I'll say this. I don't think there was a noticeable drop-off in the play at the nickel position when JV and Elliott went in there. I didn't see
No.
him getting picked on like you might expect, and that's a credit to him. And I certainly don't want to piss off Jude Barima because Mark's already done that.
No, it's a Jude Hive.
Yeah.
We're the Jude Hive.
Yeah.
We started last night. Everybody retweeted it, and they
But
said
listen,
Hive for Jude.
I will make sure that Mark Cook does fist fight Jude Barima, and Trevor will make sure to get that on video.
I will
and
tweet it
out.
I'll tweet it before Greg Almond.
We're going to live stream
So,
that. We're
Hold
gonna-
on,
yeah.
hold on. I want to see if I got the McNichols tweet out before Almond did.
Oh, we did. Yes. Yeah, we did.
I did?
Yes. You and then we at Pewter Report did that,
Nah, it was me.
and then
It
it
was
was an instance where there was some muttering behind us from the Times. They're saying that it's McNichols. You feel with that? Yeah. We've been pretty quick with our Twitter game in terms of getting the picks out.
I mean, when you
Which is
spend half of your life staring at your phone and refreshing your timeline, I better be good at something. So that's all I have
And
to
I will
say.
say that Greg Almond has accepted your challenge. We will do a Twitter a Twitter contest.
It's got
at
to
some
be.
point.
It's got to be some kind of triathlon-y thing.
Yeah.
Like you got to do speed.
Right.
You got
Accuracy.
you got to do accuracy, and then we got to do something where I'm looking at you
Yeah.
and I'm tweeting about it.
Right. And
And
I
to
think
see-
the fourth element has to be the amount of likes and retweets you get. So there's a quality
Oh.
aspect there as well.
Yeah.
Is it hot take-ish enough? Is it catchphrase enough?
Mm.
Is it buzzworthy enough to get the retweets? So the retweet factor has got to play into that as well.
Got to get
You're a little hipper than Greg Almond.
got to get my fam up
I'm
though.
just
But
saying.
Greg Almond's got a following, man. He's got
Yes.
those roots in there fit.
Yeah.
Like when Greg tweets something,
Yeah,
it's
it's legit.
fact,
Yeah.
So and I even
love
think
it.
that Greg's great.
And Rick Stroud too, and Tom Jones. I think the
obviously.
Tampa Bay Times.
They do a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah,
I've been reading those guys for a long time.
I will say this: between PewterReport.com and the Times, if you read both of us, I think it's great because we really haven't overlapped a lot. I think that we've done a very good complementary job of filling in all of the cracks for Buccaneer fans. If you want to know about the draft, I think between Pewter Report, what we've done, and the Times, pretty much all the bases are covered. Now, there's going to be some surprises, some Kendall Beckwiths out there that pop up that nobody in the media room saw coming. We're like, what? But that's going to happen. And that's, honestly, that's the way it should be. No media member should know all of the Buccaneers' hot prospects and all that stuff. We know some of them don't come to fruition because tell us about the Ira Kaufman fight. Well, I'm just going to say this. Trey, do I look like I have any bruises on my face?
I don't see any.
Ira Kaufman's not here today. Just saying.
Follow the clues however you want to.
Yeah.
We got another question?
Tom Jones had a horrible article on Jameis. Yes, he did, and I called him out for that. But Tom and I are good friends, and I'll tell you what, Tom has actually had some really dynamite columns here lately for the Times that I endorse. I like him. He pisses me off sometimes with what he writes about. We have a little bit of a different political persuasion, but I get over that. I like him. I think he's a very talented columnist. And you know who else is pretty talented? Gary Shelton, who writes for us during the football season and also during the draft. 2 great columns. Go back and read his O.J. Howard column from Thursday night / Friday morning. This was a late publish. I'm not wearing any makeup to hide any of those bruises.
Anthony,
Come on, John.
who is a big Lightning fan, he's a fan of mine, at Strike Twice, WOTB, tweeted, the Bucs picked OJ and a Bronco in the same draft. How great would it have been if it was a white Bronco?
I was going to say Tre'Davious White, yeah. If they could have gotten something like that in there. OJ White Bronco, yeah. But yeah, back to my point, which is about what? I don't even know what I was talking about.
You were talking about Tom Jones or something.
That's right, yeah. The columnist, Gary Shelton.
Oh yeah, Gary Shelton.
Gary Shelton he's not even a columnist, he's a storyteller. The guy is a storyteller. There's no way I can craft a column as good as him.
He was.
My SR's Fat Fives are a lot more flat out, boom, informational. This is what I know. Here's the scoop. I am not nearly the craftsman, the wordsmith that the Tom Jones or Gary Shelton is. And I love Gary Shelton's stuff. The guy can just tell a story, Trey.
He is. I like the last week of the season when I was here for my first week of work. I read Shelton's. I went through the game day experience for the first time. I got to go in the press box for the first time. It was awesome. It was great. I got to live tweet on the Pewter Report account. That was a lot of fun. The Carolina Bucs game was a whole lot of awful football in the second and third quarters. So the awful football games are always the most fun to tweet just because you can get kind of wacky with it and people enjoy it.
Yep.
And so that was a lot of fun. And then after the game, I'm sitting next to Gary and Mark and we're writing our stories. And then I read Gary's recap of the game the next day and his story. And it was like, wow, this guy, he's got a newspaper style to him, but it's a great newspaper style.
Yes.
It's not like a newspaper style as in like this is kind of like how it's dying. It's in the newspaper style of this. This was a really well-crafted
It's
recap.
classic, yet it's current.
He is, and Gary is really good at that. I'm not just saying it because he writes for us. Truly, I was pretty impressed with what he does because I'm somebody who I like to think that when I put some effort into it, I know how to tell a good story too. But reading him is good stuff. But
and I'll say this too. Go follow Gary at Gary. It's at Gary _Shelton. And then you also need to go check out his website.
Thank you, Nick.
GarySheltonSports.com. A lot of great stuff on there. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate the love for the Fab Five. My Fab Five is just a different element. It's a little bit like Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback. It's almost like Len Pasquarelli's tip sheet back in the day, which is kind of before your time. But that came out on Friday, and on Monday it was the Monday Morning Quarterback. So I do the long form, kind of in that vein. I inject opinion in there, but it's mostly analysis and information and that type of stuff. But I love the storytellers. Tom Jones, Gary Shelton, I like them.
Got to answer this question because a couple of people have actually asked it last week too. Has Jacques Smith signed his restricted free agent tender yet? If not, why? Is there an advantage to signing him? I believe the deadline was Friday. Was last Friday.
Yeah,
And-
he signed a waiver to be able to participate. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can get the answer.
Okay, yeah. Make sure you get this right because we didn't get a press release. I don't think that he had signed his tender, but I think the deadline had passed, and we also didn't get any kind of hey, Jacques Smith is because if you don't sign your restricted free agency tender,
You're a free agent, right?
no, you can't play football for the year, and then no. You are on the same contract, and then you are still a restricted free agent the next year if you don't sign the tender. So it's basically like
But,
you waste a whole year of your life.
did the Bucks give him a tender offer?
Yeah,
They did.
yeah.
He just didn't sign it.
Well, I don't know if he didn't sign it. I just got to figure. He might have signed a waiver. They're okay. This is a good question because now
We're
we
gonna
get
get to the
now
bottom.
we get to the bottom of this because
Okay, I got to run out for a quick second, Trevor. But
yes,
this is something. And this was a little bit of a hypothetical, situational supposition on my part in the Fab Five
Mhm.
about Noah Spence's role. Scott, I believe earlier in the offseason, I'd seen reports of Noah Spence being prepped to play at Sam on early downs and moving to the edge on passing downs. Wait a second. Do you think the drafting of Beckwith is an indication that the Bucks could be serious about more of a 3-4 experimentation this year with Spence, Beckwith, Quan Alexander, and Levante David in base as a 3-4 linebacking core? Or do you think he'll be keeping his hand in the dirt full time?
yeah. So this is a little bit more schematic and
I'm going to let you answer
so
that. I got to step out for a minute.
I can
Be
answer
right
this.
And then Trevor, we got a couple more right there if you want to delve into those from the plank.
Okay.
You can ask questions on the plank on pewterreport.com and also on Twitter. You can send some questions Trevor's way
at
or
Pewter
at
Report, I
Pewter
guess. So here's the thing: Mike Smith's defense has traditionally been 4-3 for the longest time, and I've seen it evolve more over the last 2 years, more than I have recently, and he's gotten into a lot more. Like, for example, we saw him use Robert Ayers as a interior defensive player and as an edge player. So there's a little bit of variation and a little bit of diversity there, which always keeps offensive lines guessing, and that's what you want. Anytime you can disrupt the chemistry of an offensive line, that is the goal, really, of defensive line play, because that means you're allowing for more one-on-one matchups, and one-on-one matchups for a defense usually just means a win. It means you get to the quarterback faster. But in terms of moving from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and some experience in experimenting there, I wouldn't put it past Smith to experiment because, like I said, we've seen him get more and more creative over these last 2 years. Just last year. But moving to a 3-4, the roles of the 3-4 would really negate Gerald McCoy, which is not good. And when you're talking about having a cornerstone for the defense, that is why a 3-4 really wouldn't work. And a lot of people they're looking at the linebackers, right? And it's Spence especially. And they're thinking, oh, well, maybe they could go to the 3-4. But in this case, you shouldn't be thinking about Spence's role. You should more be thinking about McCoy's role, because McCoy is the cornerstone of the defense. He's the guy that has the most talent on the D-line. He's the guy that you have to get the most out of, really. It all starts with him. If you negate his ceiling or potential of what he's able to do on a play-by-play basis, you're limiting what the defense can do up front, which is where it all really has to happen, where you all have to win to really win a play. So with a 3-4, you can have Noah Spence come in as like a Leo or a Buck linebacker as a stand-up or even with his hand on the ground. But the thing is that if you're still doing that, and that's a fine role for Spence. People bring that up and they go, okay, well, Spence has the talent to do that. He has the athleticism to do that, and I think even dropping back into coverage if he's like a temporary linebacker in some of those situations. And I agree. I think that he can. But then McCoy, you're looking at a pass rushing 3 tech, and you're turning him into a run stopping 4 tech, or just what you would call a 3-4 defensive end. So Baker could play nose tackle. Golston could play 4 tech D end. McCoy could, but at that point, you're not getting the production that you need, or the potential production. You're limiting you're limiting the skills of the defensive lineman that you brought in. It just doesn't make any sense there. And so when you talk about fronts like 3-4, 4-3, where things matter, linebackers are key for pass rushing. But really, you have to, above all, you have to have the correct defensive lineman to make it work. And for an example, when Darrelle Revis came in a couple years ago, there was a big qualm of, oh, he's not really a scheme fit. And I was one of those people who said, you got to change the secondary scheme then to adapt for a player like Darrelle Revis. That's kind of the same thing with the defensive line. You can't really, Mike Smith might get more creative in what he does with Noah Spence. I'm not saying that he's not going to get creative with what he does with Noah Spence. But when it comes to switching fronts altogether and experimenting more with the box and the front seven as a whole, it really comes down to McCoy, and you can't change from that 4-3 base with McCoy on your team and with it as the cornerstone as a 3 tech, because you're wasting him if you then turn him into a 3-4 defensive end. I guess in a play-by-play basis, maybe we're talking about, like, if McCoy were to go off the field, say like in some packages, maybe we could get, or maybe we would be able to see Baker and Saliga along with Golston, and that's the front, and then Noah Spence maybe in a stand-up role there. But anytime McCoy's on the field, I just think it's a waste if you're going to 3-4. So that's my kind of long explanation there. Hope that made sense. If it doesn't, and if you're still like curious about it, if I keep getting questions about it, I can do a total cover 3 on it. But I kind of feel like I did that already, but maybe I didn't. I have a couple of cover 3s coming up, really getting into these rookies especially. And one of them, you know what? One of them probably will dive into this a little bit, because I'm going to do a cover 3 on Beckwith. And I'm going to look at his college tape, as well as look at where the Bucs are right now to where he could possibly be plugged in, see what the value of this draft pick could really be. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. Yeah, and anytime you guys are either like listening to me talk or reading my tweets or even reading the cover 3 or something like that, I try to pride myself on making the X's and O's of football simple to understand, because I never played football. I don't have this, like upper echelon of terminology that a lot of coaches have. And so I've had to learn X's and O's kind of on my own and in language that I guess I would call like normal fan speak language. And so I always want to make sure what I'm saying, even the more that I learn with X's and O's, is easily translatable to even the common fan, people that just are casual football watchers. So that's really what originated me wanting to do the cover 3 and why I love to do stuff like that. So yeah, if I ever get away from that, just let me know. I will gladly re-explain it to you or make it more simple and everything, because at the end of the day, I want you guys to understand the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as best you possibly can. So another question. Let's see. Thoughts on Myrick, the corner, the guy who ran a 4.28, and then Adebayo is another one. I like Adebayo a lot. He's the wide receiver out of Ole Miss on the other side of the Maurier Stringfellow. I think he has got elite footwork, and we saw that on display a lot at the East-West Shrine game, and boy, I asked him where he'd been working out with it, and he said he was working out with a certain trainer out in Texas, and there were a couple of wide receivers who were there with him, and you could really tell he was just chopping his feet up off the line of scrimmage, and that's really where you see a lot of these slot players, how they win right off the line. You got that quick feet, and you're chopping your feet the second the ball is snapped, and then boom, one foot's in the ground, and you're going the other way. Your hips are pointing to the left, and then you put your left foot in the ground, and boom, you're going right. And that's when the corner cannot react to it. So if you have quick feet, a guy who I love who has quick feet, well, obviously Antonio Brown, he's phenomenal at it. That's why he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, if not the most effective wide receiver in the NFL. But another one who does this is Sterling Shepard, a guy who I liked a lot last year. And I think you're going to see the NFL, or you should see the NFL, really emphasize footwork for wide receivers, especially as the slot position starts to become more and more important as offenses get more dynamic and we start to see more of a passing attack for a lot of different teams in the NFL. And then Myrick's the corner. I like him. I think this is about the round that you would take him. I wouldn't have taken him any sooner, but I do think that he is. I do think that he is somewhat of what we called in this week's Cover 3 a Buccaneer corner. So I think that Myrick could, and he also, like that much speed. I don't know if he was a kick returner. I only watched him at cornerback tape. I never saw him at all as a kick returner, so maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But you got to think if the guy's that fast. You're looking at a special teams player anyways. You're drafting him this late. You're looking at a gunner. And if you're getting a potential kick return, punt return guy, so so be it. That'd be an extra. That'd be an extra bonus. We got here. How many picks are we away, guys? How many picks are? Because Tampa's. How many picks are we away from Tampa? Because they're not on the board. So let's see. Hi, Trevor. Can Trevor take over the podcast music? Can I take over the podcast intro music full time? I think the guys like the fact that they get to say in some of the podcast stuff, but I know the first week when I made Swag Surfing the intro music, everybody was loving that. So maybe I'll see if I can sneak mine into like in every other one. Like if they forget, I'll just sneak mine in there, and then I'll make it be like Scott, me, Mark, me. So I don't know. We'll see. Thoughts on Katie Cannon, and will there be an article for early names to look for in next year's draft? I like Katie Cannon. I was not as high on him as some people who liked him in the third or the fourth round. I'm wary of Baylor wide receivers, especially ones that are smaller, because Baylor's scheme. If you watch Baylor, and hey, any of you guys who like to do your own scouting and like to look up your own prospects, when you watch Baylor, you're going to watch a lot of prospects that take plays off, basically almost like half the game. It's like they're not even play. You might want to watch a wide receiver and be like, okay, well, how does he block when he doesn't have the ball in his hands or when the ball's not coming to him? And you'll watch like a Katie Cannon tape or even like a Corey Coleman last year, and you go, wow, these guys suck. Like they're not even, the effort's terrible. You got to realize that's Baylor's offense. Baylor runs one route every single play. And that wide receiver, they will put 4 or 5 wide receivers out on the field, and they will run one real route. And the ball will go to him, and it will either be complete or incomplete. But it's basically one route goes out, and then there are like 2 screens at all times. So either you're hitting that route or you're hitting a screen, I guess. But it looks like these guys are taking plays off. So you don't know how well Katie Cannon can really hold up against the run at all times. It's a little shaky. So I liked Cannon for what he could do vertically. But I think that the 5th, 6th round is really where you take a guy who is good vertically and you don't know about much else. So I would have been cool with Katie Cannon in the
Bucky Hodges for the Vikings.
I like that. That's a really good pick. That's a really good pick late. Thank you, Nick, for letting me know that. Try to answer the 3-4 question. It was pretty elaborate on it.
Okay.
I basically told him.
You talk about Malachi Dupree. I'm not a fan of either LSU receiver, to be honest.
I like Traven Doral.
Not a fan.
But I think both those guys are limited. It's hard to judge them because LSU is such a dumpster fire of an offense because they had Leonard Fournette and they wanted to run pro style under center every time they ran the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Because Fournette can't run out of the shotgun. There you go. And they wanted to run a spread offense every time they passed it. So it's almost like they were running conflicting offensive schemes.
Right.
You can have characteristics of both within an offensive scheme, but it was like they had 2 different offensive schemes, one for when they passed, one for when they ran. And you just can't do that. That's bad.
Yeah.
Because the players that you have to get to make both work
Yeah.
have to be a little different here and there in certain areas,
Well-
and that's why I think the quarterbacks just weren't good.
No.
But I thought the offense really screwed
And
him.
that's crazy, and that's something that our good friend Booger McFarland, who's a diehard LSU
Mhm.
alum and fan, it's like, how in the world can you be LSU and not get a quarterback?
Same thing with Florida. Florida can't get a quarterback.
I know. That's nuts. That's nuts.
It's crazy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
LSU gets like a top 10 recruiting class every single year. They can't get a quarterback. Their last good quarterback was, do you want to call Zach Mettenberger a good
And
quarterback?
here's the thing: they get some good wide receivers, but how did they get these receivers out of high school? When who's going to throw them the ball? That's just nuts. I don't know. It's tough to get. We were up to 1,000 people like Thursday and Friday night when the Bucks premium picks were coming in.
Mhm.
We're still like in the hundreds right now, which is amazing. You guys are the diehards. You guys are the day three. It's Saturday. It's sunny. It's nice. But I'm just gonna camp out and watch the draft, diehards, and I'm gonna listen to Trevor and Scott and Mark and Riley on.
Riley was the
video
bonus
cast.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Eddie Suarez asked 35, but in Spanish, like a question. Like
Okay.
35 in Spanish. I don't know what that means.
Don't know.
I don't know. I just like the upside down
Yeah.
question mark. It's
Yeah.
like he asked us a question, but it was with the Spanish and
like it.
inflation. So
So 6 rounds still carrying on because we have
I think we got 50.
compensatory picks.
I think we got 50 more picks.
Something like that, yeah.
50 more picks.
A couple other questions from the plank here. Did you talk about
blank.
Adebayo and Myrick? Is Myrick still available?
I believe so.
Jalen Myrick, he's a fast corner. I wonder if he's more of an athlete than he is. D'Angelo Henderson to the Broncos out of Coastal Carolina. Boy, what a productive player he was.
Mm-hmm.
Scored a touchdown in his final 35 career games. That's an FCS record.
Yeah. Wow.
Thanks, Trevor. Strong answer. Follow-up question. Can Trevor take over the
Yeah.
music intros
I
for the
got-
podcast that people
Yeah.
demanded?
I read that one.
Yeah.
I told him I might trick you guys every now and then and make it,
Yeah.
Scott, me, Mark, me, Scott, maybe
Yes.
put me in between there. But wow, people are really not happy. Vikings Twitter really not happy with that Bucky Hodges pick. I don't really understand how you can be not happy with
He's
him.
just he's not a tight end.
But he's in the 6th round.
He's just a big receiver. But yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Hell yeah, favorite website for Bucks info right here. You guys are great. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Who did the 49ers take?
Trevor, when you were growing up,
Yes.
were there ever any particular draft instances? I mean, we always talk about, the most memorable games that you went to or saw growing up, whether
Mhm.
it's, a particular Bucks game or a particular Super Bowl or what have you. Hold on, I just got a text.
Yes.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh!
So you tell him. Here, tell him.
If you were with us last night, for the video cast, the live streaming video cast here for One Buck in Your Place, PewterReport.com's first attempt at this, and a huge success thanks to you guys, Pewter Nation, for tuning in. Appreciate that, Robert. Pewter, awesome. Thank you. You're Pewter, awesome for tuning in. Tell the story, Trevor.
Okay, so what
Tell the
happened?
story.
I don't actually know how or why Mark was just, I guess he was just like looking to pick a fight last night. I don't know, he was just feeling it last night. There was a lot of energy around, and he was just
being the crappy old man.
he
that
was
is.
just feeling it, and he said that
He started picking on a Buccaneer player.
he started
Who was
picking
that?
on Jude. He started picking on Jude, and then he said he was like, yeah, I'd fight Jude. I could probably fight
Well,
Jude.
he was ticked off because he blames Jude for the Raiders' loss. For
Oh,
on
okay.
that 4th down play where Jude was all the way over on this side of the field.
Mhm.
There was, I think, a pass broken up. but away from the field, he got flagged for defensive holding or pass
Oh,
interference.
you're right. Yep,
and
yep,
it
yep.
gave them new life, and they ended up scoring
Yep,
and
yep,
tying the game and all that stuff.
So he basically said, he's like, yeah, I'd fight Jude, and we started talking about it. I was like, there's no way that you would beat up Jude in a fight. I don't care how big Jude is. And that's when I explained to them what Hive was, so I decided to combine the two little
And he was
inside
just getting a
jokes
little
from the
rowdy.
live stream, and I tweeted at Jude and I said Hive to at Jude AJ Barima.
Yeah, but
And-
he kept going on like, I would fight Jude.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'd fight Jude. I'd be able to beat him up.
Yeah.
And then
And of course, I was saying no way. Jude would completely kick your ass.
and then a couple minutes ago, we got a text from the man himself, Jude AJ
I'm going to
Barima.
wait for Mark Cook to come in
Okay.
to read this tweet. I've summoned Mark to the room here.
All right,
We'll
we'll wait. We got but Jude has responded, folks. Jude listens to the Pewter Nation live stream, I guess, and he heard.
Tell me Jude is going to fight Mark.
We gotta wait. We gotta wait. Hive, there it is. There it is. Yes. Oh man, Raiders receivers outplayed him. Yeah,
I'm not
you
calling
can,
Jude, I'm calling Mark. Hey, you got to come in here, man. Need you right away. Thanks. Unlike you, he doesn't have his phone glued to his hand. So when I texted him, he didn't read it, didn't respond. But this is hilarious.
Wow, that's really cool. Just read a text. The Packers defensive tackle was drafted yesterday, Montrevious Adams, got the call that he was the 93rd selection right after his son was born.
Wow.
So it's
What
a
a
picture of
day.
him in the hospital with his phone up.
Yeah.
So, Mark,
Just got a text.
here you go, folks. I'll get to you, Sholly. I'll get to you.
I just got a text.
I'm not scared. Bring it.
Read it out loud.
Who's it from? Who's it from? Who's it from?
Bring it, Jude. Bring it. I will fight
Read it.
you, Jude.
Read it.
Scott, this is from Jude I.J. Brema. Scott, it's Jude. Tell Mark I heard what he said. He's going to have to see me. He's got 3 fists like this.
Hey,
we're,
Jude, what are you gonna do?
we're still
Hold me?
we're
Are
still
you gonna,
we're still
are you
Jude
gonna
Hive.
hold
We're
my
still
jersey
we're still
so I
Jude
can't
Hive.
Fight?
Yeah.
Are you gonna wrap me up?
Me
so
and the good
swing?
folks in the
Hilarious.
chat still Jude Hive. That's
Jude,
funny.
Jude before the end of the first round. Yeah. Now listen.
Fat
Mark-
boys can
Listen.
take
Mark
punches.
always says whoever he fights. It could be Jude. It could be the great
Be
colleague.
worn south.
Mark says.
I love you, Mark. I would put every penny
Mark says
that I have.
he
and all
would
of my
probably
personal
lose the
belongings
fight,
on Jude by
but he'd
Jude I.J. Brema.
get a shot in.
Oh,
He'd
I'm
get a
good.
real good shot.
Yeah, he would miss. He would miss.
No, I'm not.
I'm talking about an NFL caliber cornerback here. This is a starting nickel corner. He's going to elude your
First
your
of all,
attempts.
no. What he's gonna do is he's gonna wrap me up and try and get through the fight that way. You know what I mean? And hope the referee isn't looking.
Now listen.
Just kidding.
We hear
I
you.
love Jude. I don't really want to
Yeah,
fight.
he's
Jude.
backing down now.
No, I'll fight him. I'm not
Yeah.
backing
Yeah,
out.
I love him.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
fight him.
yeah.
I'll fight him.
I'll fight him.
All right.
No problem.
Listen, I got to admit, there's not going to be a fight, just like there wasn't a fight between Ira Kaufman and I.
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah,
That was staged?
it wasn't staged.
That picture was staged?
No. But listen, it just
We've been duped.
I called
I've been
I
duped
called
with
Jude
you
I.J.
all.
Barima, and I told him what went down. He was laughing, and I said, "Can you send me a text? Because I got to show Mark
you
Cook."
bastard.
So we just punked you, Mark.
I was like thinking I got to start training now.
know.
I got to get off the couch. I
So
gotta
thank
move
you,
around.
Jude I.J. Barima, for participating.
Hey, Jude Hive, everybody.
Yes, very
Jude
cool
Hive.
of you.
Jude's my guy.
Yeah. And
Oh.
he even went to the extreme with the 3.
He did.
fists
He
on
did.
Mark, so.
He did.
Good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Very cool, Jude. Thank you.
Thanks
Jude's
a
a
lot.
good dude. Somebody asked a
This
question.
is almost like Impractical Jokers. We're
At
doing
this,
now here in day 3.
look, I mean, day 3, we're basically
We're biding time until the 7th round.
basically, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Hey, go take your blood pressure medicine, old man. Your
I
numbers
know.
are elevated
I see
now.
My face started getting red. I was like, maybe I need to challenge that.
Just punked Mark live on the video stream here.
That was good. Trevor, quick thought on
Speaking of,
it's Bouchel,
Whoa, whoa,
right? Is
whoa,
that
whoa,
his?
whoa, we got some news here.
We got some news.
Speaking of text, back to about 10 minutes ago, Jacquees Smith has not signed
So,
his tender.
so last Friday, Douglas, if you're still in here, when you said that last Friday, what you and I were correct. That was the last day he could sign with another team, but that wasn't the full deadline. So,
I'm sorry, I'll get to this in a second. I'm reading some comments here. Jude, awesome.
better bring Sap
Mark,
with
you better bring Sap with you. Over
over Mark in 10 seconds.
Getting knocked out in 10 seconds. Oh snap! Mark just he's one shot. That's good.
So you gotta get to the. You're leaving him hanging.
Okay.
Now. What's
all
going
right,
on
so
with Jacquees Smith?
With Jacquees Smith,
Yeah.
he did not sign his RFA tender. And I asked the question why, and the reply I got was you'll have to ask him. Not sure. And he has time to sign it.
He does still have time,
But
he doesn't have time to sign with another team.
Yeah, correct.
So it's either he signs with the Buccaneers or he holds out an entire year, because that's what happens if you don't sign the restricted tender with your current team.
But he has no leverage. He's coming off a 20 ACL. He missed all of last
Yeah.
year.
I mean, you're hoping for a new contract, right? Instead of a tender.
Just take the restricted free agent tender.
Maybe
I
he
mean,
doesn't, maybe he doesn't feel like
He doesn't have any leverage.
maybe he wants another week of vacation. We all want that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
don't
So,
get it.
anyways, Shane Buechele, I think he was a redshirt freshman for them, right? I
In
think.
Texas?
Yeah. And I mean, I watched Texas a little bit this year, just for Foreman and just because Texas was in the spotlight.
I watched Texas.
He's a gamer. I mean, that's my definition.
He's got a long way to go.
But like I said, he's a redshirt freshman.
They
right?
lost to KU. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
That
I don't know. I watch him, and I've seen him kind of step
KU's
up. And
football program is getting better.
I've
that was a
seen-
landmark win last year. But I mean, Texas has no business losing to KU.
I think
All
he's a
right.
gamer.
And that's what prompted the firing of Max Strong. That's why Max Strong is in USF.
You said Max Strong.
Oh,
It's
sorry,
Charlie
not Max
Strong or
Strong,
Mac
Charlie
Brown?
Strong.
Which
Yeah,
one?
sorry.
Pick one. You gotta pick.
I was blending the
Check my Twitter
two
feed.
Texas legend names.
One time I'm not on my. I'm the
Yeah, I hope that
fastest.
nobody out there was.
Douglas made this. Look at this.
That's good.
Lot 6.
Yeah.
Man,
That's
that's
good.
good. Douglas, you're fantastic. That was amazing. Oh, so he was a true freshman. See, I thought he was a redshirt freshman. He's a true freshman.
Yeah.
Man, then if he is a true freshman, he's 18 years old. He was doing some of the stuff, making some of the throws that he made last year. Again, use the word gamer. He looked like a kid who I would want to invest in as a true freshman. He looked like he's got the mentality to go out, win football games. And so, Texas, I don't think Texas is that great, but I don't know. Johnny, I like him. That's as far as I can go, because he's obviously a freshman. Don't watch a ton of Texas games. Haven't seen him, but more than this year, a couple of spot games. But I thought he stepped up big in a lot of moments, especially for a kid who's 18 years old. So, left high school, and I mean, I would too. I'd leave high school early to go to college too.
Yeah, right.
Just being honest. The 7th round's coming up. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll go get some water.
Just texting Jude, thank you. So, that was awesome. That was funny to get a little Impractical Jokers punk style episode here in the Day 3 video cast, live from One Buccaneer Place. This has been fun. We've gotten a ton of great feedback on it. Greatly appreciate your support. Didn't give you guys a whole bunch of notice on this because we had to basically reserve this room, get the logistics figured out with the technology and all that kind of jazz. And thank God we have Trevor, the young millennial, to know how to plug all these wires in and put this thing together. And so yeah, that was very very cool to be able to do this, have you guys enjoy it, to bring some content, some fresh breaking news. I think we got a lot of these picks out instantaneously, and even before maybe you guys knew about some of these Buccaneer picks and even some of these NFL picks. So, but we can't do all this without you guys. Your support means everything to us, and we greatly appreciate the numbers. We've had record numbers for this draft. I mean, the numbers we've had this draft period, yesterday especially, was an all-time high on PewterReport.com. We're talking tens of thousands of people. Basically, the amount of people in Raymond James Stadium is how many people were on PewterReport.com yesterday. So that's an amazing feat. Thank you very much for your support and your patronage. And this is just the start. We'll be doing more Pewter Nation podcasts, more video streaming throughout the season. Still great content on the website in the written form, Cover 3, Pewter Report Monday Mailbag, SR's Fab 5, and all the great analysis stories. Well, Gary Shelton's columns on there. Definitely highly recommend you read Gary Shelton's columns. He did a great job on the day 1 story about O.G. Howard and the day 2 story of you got to trust Jason Light, because some of these picks didn't really move the needle in the Bucs fan base community. It wasn't those types of picks that were going to supercharge you like it would have been maybe if it was, say, a Dalvin Cook or a Marlon Mack. But he is a master storyteller, so definitely check those out. And we'll be having a Pewter Report analysis story, my thoughts, Trevor's thoughts, Mark's thoughts on the transpirings here. And so look for that later tonight on PewterReport.com. There is one more pick coming up for the Buccaneers, and that is in the 7th round. So, let's see here. With the players left, where do you see the Bucs going with their last pick? I really don't know. I've been terrible at predicting 7th round picks. We did nail Danny Vitale last year. I think that was the end of the 6th round, though. Maybe it was the 7th round pick. I forget. But I have no idea. At this point in time, it's wide open. Really, the only difference between being an undrafted free agent and being a 7th round pick is you get the pride of saying, I actually got drafted. But sometimes, and I hear this from agents all the time, it's better to be an undrafted free agent than a 7th round pick, because the monetary difference if you make the team is very minuscule in terms of you get a little bit of a signing bonus as a 7th round pick, but the beauty of being an undrafted free agent is you get to pick the team where you want to go sign, and that is, of course, if you're wanted. But you get to pick. It's like The Voice. When you get picked, and it's, Gwen Stefani, then you're on Gwen Stefani's team. But if you get picked by all 4 of them, you get your pick and choose between, Alicia Keys or Adam Levine or Blake Shelton or Gwen. And then you're in the decision maker's chair, and you get to decide which coach you want to be. That's the same way. Agents really help their undrafted free agents by looking at teams' depth charts and saying, where is my guy going to go that he's not going to be just training camp fodder, that he's not going to be just a training camp body, that he's actually going to have an opportunity to win a roster spot. And that's exactly what Adam Humphries went into that decision-making from Clemson 2 years ago, I guess 3 years ago now. He wanted the opportunity to catch passes from Jameis Winston, and he also saw the depth chart with the Buccaneers and said, that is an opportunity where I have a chance to come in and maybe win a spot. Nick asks, Scott, where do the Bucs rank in terms of the NFC South with their draft? This is a good time to recap that, so I will do that right now. We're kind of waiting for more picks to fall. Looking over the last couple picks here, the only pick I really liked out of this group was D'Angelo Henderson, the running back from Coastal Carolina, 5'7", 208. He's a good player. All right, let's take a look at Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel, Taylor Moton. Those are 3 offensive guys that are going to help Cam Newton. Then they went defense for a couple picks with Deshaun Hall. Helps at the defensive end. Then they went with Corn Elder, cornerback out of Miami, and Alex Armah from West Georgia, 6'2", 253-pound fullback. He's going to replace Mike Tolbert. That offense runs a lot of I formation, maybe some offset I, and that's why you need a fullback in Carolina's offense. So getting Alex Armah is going to make Christian McCaffrey a happy guy, and I think Christian McCaffrey does well with the fullback in front of him. He's quick. He was quick enough at Stanford to make guys miss in the backfield through his penetration. It's going to be a little bit more difficult in the NFL. Getting a fullback for Mike Shula's offense in Carolina is key, and they have one now in the 6th round. That's a pretty good draft. I would say the Buccaneers draft stacks up well with that, but I like Carolina's perhaps a touch better. Let's take a look at the Falcons. Falcons, pretty solid here. Tack McKinley, first-round pick, pass rushing defensive end. He's going to bookend with Vic Beasley, really give them a 1-2 punch on the edge, and that's just a lot of speed coming off the corner. That's going to be that defense in Atlanta is getting pretty scary. It was a lot better last year with the two linebackers, Campbell and Jones. Those two rookies really shined, and now Tack McKinley and another linebacker, Duke Riley, really helped shore up that defense. DeMonte KZ is a very, very good cornerback, makes a ton of plays. I like him. I think he's a really good player. The Bucs really didn't care for him that much. I don't know why they didn't like him, because I really thought that he was a good player at San Diego State. Sean Harlow, the guard from Oregon State. Don't know a whole bunch about him. Didn't do a whole bunch of work on guards this year, but that's a need pick for the Atlanta Falcons. They had a hole there, and that's just to keep Matt Ryan safe. He's probably got an opportunity to start as a 4th-round pick, so that's a solid pick there. And then, golly, I think Atlanta's been killing it here on day 2 with KZ, with Brian Hill, with Eric Saubert from Drake, Brian Hill, the running back, downhill type of power back guy, catch the ball out of the backfield on occasion. In my opinion, I think Atlanta is having the best draft in the NFC South. I would probably rank the Bucs 3rd, but let's take a look at the Saints to see if my mind changes. Pulling up the Saints. All right. He was cooperating. Saints. They start off with Marshawn Lattimore. They got Ryan Ramczyk. Those are 2 needs, and they got 2 pretty good players there to fill those needs. Marcus Williams, they needed help in the secondary. He's a playmaker. Alvin Kamara, a little bit of a luxury pick there because they already have running backs in Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram. Both of those guys have a tendency to get banged up a bit. So I think that Kamara presents them with a little bit of a safety blanket, an insurance policy, if you will, a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield and do damage in the screen game, and that's got to appeal to Drew Brees. It's a little bit of a different dimension, and that's the type of player that has been a good role player in New Orleans offense, whether it was Pierre Thomas, whether it was C.J. Spiller or Reggie Bush. They always wanted that guy to catch the swing pass out of the backfield, attack the perimeter. That's what Kamara does best. So it's a good scheme fit. Alex Anzalone in the 3rd round, along with Trey Hendrickson from Florida Atlantic. Those are pretty good picks. Anzalone, if he can stay healthy, durability has been a problem with him because of his shoulders. But if he's healthy, he is a big, fast guy, 6'3", 241, a guy that can run. Hendrickson is a real sleeper at the East-West Shrine game. 6'4", 266 pounds. He is a high motor player. I'll tell you what, he's a good player. That's a pick that scares me a little bit if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would say the Buccaneers probably have the third best draft, maybe the fourth. Just saying. They're going to be down a pick this year because they traded up to get Beckwith. So they lost a sixth-round pick. And so they had two third-round picks. They picked Chris Godwin, and then they picked Beckwith. And I think it's a solid draft for the Buccaneers. The headliner is obviously O.J. Howard. You have to be able to hit on your first-round pick. That's the mark of a true GM. It's not finding the late-round gems. Sure, that's good to do, but where GMs are truly measured is what you do with the premium picks. Where do you go with the first round? Is that player a gem or is it a bust? Is it a Pro Bowl player or is it a decent starter? You can't waste your capital. That's the biggest capital that a team gets is a first-round draft pick every year. You're going to have the opportunity, if you have your first-round pick, to get one of the top 32 players in the draft. You have to make that count. And we have seen Mike Evans, Pro Bowl wide receiver. We have seen Jameis Winston, who's also been to a Pro Bowl, throwing for over 4,000 yards back-to-back seasons, has the makings of a franchise quarterback. We have seen Vernon Hargraves. Looks like he's going to be at least a solid cornerback. And then now you have O.J. Howard, who can be a real game wrecker in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, this two tight end offense that Dirk Cutter loves. So based on that alone, O.J. Howard's a damn fine draft pick. He might be the best first-round pick out of all of the NFC South teams. But I think from top to bottom in the NFL draft, in the NFC South, I think that other teams have fared a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see. What do you make of the Bears draft picks? I don't know. And do I have to really look at the Bears draft picks? Do the Bucs have a reputation for giving undrafted free agents a fair shot? Yes, they do. The Bucs have a very good reputation. You can look at the Clifton Smiths back in 2008, who became a Pro Bowl return guy. DeMar Dotson came in on a tryout contract in 2009, a two-day tryout contract as a basketball player at Southern Miss, and he ended up making, he ended up winning a spot on the roster. They signed him after the rookie minicamp, where he was a tryout guy, and ended up becoming the starting right tackle. And Adam Humphries is another one of those guys. Jude Ajay-Barima, who's a big Pewter Report fan, obviously, is one of those guys as well. Trade Beckwith, linebacker, for Samson Ebukam. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to wait and see on Beckwith until he's healthy. It's questionable until then for sure. Tailbacks tend to like a fullback, especially in zone stuff, because they don't have to make reads. That's a good point. They just run off the fullback's block. So what position do the Bucs go after next? They could get a backup quarterback. Seventh round is usually a round where teams are just trying to steal basically undrafted free agents. The more sought after undrafted guys are the ones that typically, that's where some teams just go backup quarterback types and get them in the seventh round, because they know that undrafted quarterbacks will be in heavy demand, because there's just not enough good starting quarterbacks in the league, much less good backup quarterbacks in the league. It's always a need position. This is a pass-happy league. It's become that way because the quarterback's the most exciting position on the field. The NFL would rather have touchdown passes versus touchdown runs. It's why a lot of the rules are skewed in favor of the passing game. And so you might see the Buccaneers take a flyer on a backup quarterback. I wouldn't rule that out. Wouldn't put money on it, but it wouldn't shock me. Is it because the NFC South had an awesome draft or the Bucs were mediocre? I think a little bit of both. I think that's fair. We got the single best pick in O.J. Howard, maybe not as solid top to bottom as the others. Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Ernest Graham, yeah, another great point. Ernest Graham is the epitome of the undrafted free agent. CBS Sportsline gives The Bucks, O.J. Howard pick a B, and McNicholson an A plus. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Freddie Martino showing flashes. Yeah, I'm not sold. A B for O.J. Howard. That's just stupid. Agreed. Let's go to the plank, shall we, and see as the draft is winding down. Travis Rudolph, wide receiver out of Florida State. I could see it. I mean, he's got a track record with Jameis Winston. I think he was supposed to run a little bit faster than he did, if my memory serves me right. Let me check out his measurables, and we'll see. I'm looking up Travis Rudolph here. Yeah, what's going to hurt him is at the combine he ran a 4.65, and he ran a 4.6 at his pro day. So I'm guessing he's an undrafted free agent type. For a 6 foot, 189-pound receiver, and again, that's not plus size. Plus size for a receiver is over 6 feet tall and 200 pounds or more. So when you're sub plus size at 6 foot 189 and you run a 4.6, you don't have size, you don't have speed. I don't know. I think it was Greg Allman who mentioned the Bucks are excited about picking up a lot of undrafteds. Yeah, they are, and they really work the phones. It's really the draft after the draft. I've talked to many a general manager who has said that they put just as much time in the undrafted free agent process as they do in the draft process. A lot of times what they'll do is they will have picks that like guys that are fringe 7th round or undrafted free agents. They'll have those fringe guys that will come in to One Buccaneer Place for a visit, and it's not because they're thinking about drafting that particular low-rated player. It's because they want to do a little bit of recruiting and a little bit of a sales pitch to those players. Show them One Buccaneer Place, show them the great weather if they're from like a northern team. Like in Denver, it's snowing today. Down here in Tampa, it's like 89, 90 degrees and sunny. So they will do that. They'll bring in some guys that will be fringe guys, undrafted free agents, 7th round types, to try to recruit them and say, we really want you. They'll have them meet with the position coach, show them the depth chart. This is where you fit in. We only have 7 picks. We might not be able to draft you, but we really like you. And if we had an 8th draft pick, you would be the guy, that kind of thing. So they bring in guys that they know they're going to draft in rounds 1 through 7, but they also bring in guys on those top 30 visits and also the local visits because they have to fill out a rookie mini camp. Greg Allman did a great job of finding out pretty much who every local visit guy was. And those are important because, again, you need to be able to assemble enough players to have a scrimmage and everything at the rookie minicamp because you're only going to have 6 Buccaneer draft picks at that rookie minicamp. So you got to get a whole bunch more players in there to actually put on a show to be able to evaluate and install some offense and defense. So that's why it's important to have some of those visits in there and get undrafted free agents. It's not just for training camp fodder. It's not just for training camp competition. It's not for finding late round gems. You have to have enough bodies to have a rookie minicamp. And a lot of times that means getting some quarterbacks. That means getting some wide receivers to catch passes from the quarterbacks and all of that. And very few times you might get 3 or 4 players, undrafted free agents, might be 5 or 6 in a given year, that actually get signed by the team. So we are graced with the presence of Man Bun himself, Trevor Sikkema, phone in hand as usual. What are you
Somebody
tweeting about
said,
now?
so the Browns drafted Caleb Brantley, right? Mary Kay Cabot, who is a Browns B reporter, said, one league source told me of Browns Caleb Brantley, quote,
Heard
A coach at school told every team he talked to stay away, even if undrafted. Does that mean, like, one coach at Florida told him that?
Apparently.
So there's a coach at Florida telling teams to not draft a Florida player. Who is that? And how do we fire him?
Or was it a former coach?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there was an upheaval there when Will Muschamp left, right?
Yeah, I don't.
So maybe it's a Muschamp former coach. Elijah Qualls, big dude. That's a big defensive tackle right there.
Oh, that's awesome! That kid
Yeah.
singing the song. This is the
Yeah.
first time the song's been cool.
But we'll never win a Super Bowl because we got punked in 2002 by the Bucks and Ronnie Barber.
They got punked the year after, didn't they? Or 2 years after?
Well, they've been to Super Bowls.
With the who are they playing? The Panthers, right?
They lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
The Patriots. That was
Yeah.
it.
And they lost to the
Oh, yeah, it couldn't have been
the Oakland Raiders.
You idiot.
The Eagles were, I don't know if I was a fan, but they were one of the first teams I followed as a kid because I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area for a couple of years. And I kind of grew attached to that 1980 Eagles team. I liked Harold Carmichael, the big 6'7" wide receiver. I mean, that was like the first Mike Evans, man. You talk about a big wide receiver, Eagles wide receiver, Harold Carmichael, 6'7".
Whoa,
Ron
6'7"?
Jaworski's- Yes. Yeah, he was like a prototype back then, man. He was
Wow.
like the original real deal.
That is big.
The big wide receiver. Harold Carmichael. He was a freak. And Andy Slater says, bad day for Brad Kaya, getting worse. A long snapper from Louisville just got drafted before him. Yeah. So
What picks did I
liked,
miss?
I liked him. I liked Herm Edwards. I liked Wilbert Montgomery, the running back. Ron Jaworski, but only for about a year or two. Then I was all Redskin for my youth. Then I grew up in Kansas City from probably age 6 or 7 on. Followed the Chiefs, Christian Okoye, Barry Word, Derek Thomas, Neil Smith, Ron Cherry, Albert Lewis, Kevin Ross, Dan Saliamua.
I don't know what any of these
Steve
names are.
DeBerg was out there for a minute. J.J. Bird, Stephon Page, and this linebacker named Jack Del Rio.
Never heard of him.
Jack Del Rio was a middle linebacker.
I've heard his son's bad at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, true story. I actually sold Jack Del Rio a leather jacket when I worked at the Oak Park Mall Chess King. So he paid by check. I actually received a check. Not me receiving it, but I took it from him, put it in the till.
Who
in the
pays by
drawer.
check?
Well, this is back in the day, man. This is back in the...
What, when cash didn't exist?
No, it's just, if you didn't have 200 large on you at the time to pay for a Chess King leather jacket, you had to write a check.
All right.
We didn't take, well, we took Visa and Master Charge, as it was known back then,
Okay.
okay? But apparently he wanted to pay by check. And so you showed your driver's license and you wrote down the driver's license number, you wrote down his phone number on the check,
Mm-hmm.
and then you accepted the check. So I sold Jack Del Rio a leather jacket.
It's a simpler time. Debit didn't exist back then.
So,
Remember, this is before ATMs. In my mind, nothing existed before ATMs.
no.
So, nothing existed before Twitter either. That's the world that I live in, folks. Folks. So, what are people thinking about the McNichols thing? What do you guys think about McNichols? I wasn't here when he initially got drafted. I was writing the story for it.
Yeah, I wasn't either. At first glance, the quarterback draft class is better next year with players like Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. Any chance the Bucs wait for next year and get a quarterback mid-rounds next year? Yeah, possibly. The problem is you're hoping and praying that nothing happens to Jameis Winston, and that someone like Sean Renfree or
They're not going to draft a quarterback.
well, what I was saying is they could at 7. You're going to see
In the 7th round, you
Yeah,
mean?
you're going to see
I don't think so.
quarterbacks go in the 7th. You're going to see Brad Kaya go in the 7th round.
Which
That's
is
not uncommon.
weird.
Well, it's just because
Yeah,
he would
Cabot
be
had
an
that story.
He'd be an
Robert.
undrafted free agent anyways, And because it's such a demand position at training camp to have good arms,
Mm-hmm.
in case there's injury or whatever, that's usually where they go.
I think McNichols was a good pick as well. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I wasn't super high on him, but I looked at some of his athletic numbers when I was writing the story. He's a little more athletic than I thought. Then I listened to him. He was talking on the phone. He said he actually played 3 years of receiver in high school. Didn't know that. So that's a. Is McNichols better than Barber? Yes,
Yeah, he is.
a lot better.
Now, trying to convince some in the building here that might be an uphill climb because this regime likes Peyton Barber like the Shiano Lovey Smith regime liked Mike James. Like they just hung the moon.
I think they like Barber as like that guy they want. Because like we talked about, if you're lower on the depth chart, you got to be playing special teams too. You got to be like a two-dimensional kind of player in that sense. I think they like Peyton Barber because he's like he gives you maybe something at running back, but at least you got to like the character of a guy who might be willing to play special teams. That might be worth being a third running back, fourth running back on the roster. So when they say they like Peyton Barber, you got to figure that's probably not really a fan of Barber. Loved Mike James a lot. You and Greg Schiano should go get a beer. Yeah, he might take Barber's spot, maybe even Sims. I think it's probably Sims. I would not be shocked if he took Sims' spot and Barber stayed.
Yes, I can see that too.
You know, so
yeah, I think Charles Sims has really kind of
I don't think
pigeonholed himself as a one-trick pony now because he exposed himself that he can't be a runner. He had the opportunity to.
Expose him.
When Doug Martin went down, he got the start against the Broncos, and A has had a problem staying healthy. B just doesn't know what he's doing sometimes as a running back, and in my opinion, I'm just not a Charles Sims fan anymore. Not that I was a huge fan to begin with, but he's been proven injury prone. Yeah, exactly. So here's what I want from you guys. I want some feedback here. I want you guys to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being great, the best, whatever. My performance, and then separately Trevor's performance, and then Mark Cook's performance, and then Riley's performance.
Riley's going to get a 10.
Well,
Riley better get like a 15
Let's put it
out
out
of 10.
there and see, and maybe
Because Riley's the
maybe
GOAT.
the Russian judge doesn't agree, but
Riley's the young heir to the Buccaneer beat reporter throne wherever he is. Riley's great, man. I learned a lot from Riley. I was so shocked. I didn't know who. So yeah, Ken, that is completely the right thing. Riley was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know Riley until training camp last year when I was just covering training camp for Bucs Nation. That's what I was writing about last year, and I didn't even know who Riley was, and I was tweeting out updates for the Bucs, doing all kinds of videos, and Riley ended up following me. And I didn't even really notice it until he started interacting with me. I was like, oh, okay, oh, cool, this is this kid, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, I didn't know he was a kid. I just thought he was a random Twitter user. And then, we had been going on for a couple weeks of training camp, and then he posted a picture of, him and, oh, no, here's how I figured it out. I didn't put together the connection of his last name until...
Whoa, we get some more scores here. Riley 11, Mark gets a 1, okay.
No, Mark 10 hive, right there.
Scott 8.5, that's fine. SR 10.
Mark gets a 9 if he
Trevor
fights
10, Riley
Jude.
20, yeah. Mark 5 because he challenged Jude. I wish I had internet when I was his age. I'd have killed it to get on my hands with the amount of tape we have now. Mark Hive 10, yeah. Mark if he fights Jude 9. If he doesn't fight Jude 1.
1.
Mark. Scott 8. Boring KSU punt block stories. Hey, we got to fill some time. People. We got to fill some time, Douglas. I'm not going to apologize for that. He writes like he is a vet. Top rating for all. You appreciate that. Trevor 10 makes it fun. Yep. Scott 9 out of 10. Trevor 10 out of 10. Good. You got higher than me. Mark 5 out of 10.
It's a hair.
Didn't get to see him much. You didn't want to see Mark much, really.
It's
Let's just admit it.
I think I got a 10.
Yeah.
Because of my Corey Davis reaction.
Yes.
Because
Trevor solid
my
10.
son. Jude 10.
Jude 10. Yeah.
high.
Jude gets a 10. Mark 5. Pound sad face.
You guys have been awesome, by the way. Not to just like throw up like a sap fest, but like y'all are a 10. This has been fantastic. Y'all been, yeah, Riley talks fast. He's got a lot to say, man. He's got to get it out. So, anyways, training camp, a couple weeks in, been going back and forth with Riley, and Greg ends up, he sends out a tweet and he says, "Hey, thanks 620 for having my son Riley on today to talk about practice." And I was like, wait a sec.
Brad Kaya, there we go. Lions. Told you. This is getting the end of the draft here. You're going to start to see a bunch of
there it is.
quarterbacks go.
So I'm like, hold up, wait a second. And then I was like, this guy's Greg's son? What is he, in college? And then I listened to the radio spot that he does with 620. And he's got his voice that's just high. He sounds like he's just a kid. I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
I've been interacting with this kid at like a real level, and he's a kid?
Yeah.
So
And he's growing a bit of a stash now, too.
I saw that.
Yeah, he's got some peach fuzz going on.
I couldn't grow a beard till I was like,
Riley,
last
9.5, he talks
year.
fast. Mark, 5, because he has resting bitch face.
Trevor,
Everyone
because
is
of the
10.
trash bag ponytail. That's
Yes.
my man. My man, David.
This whole experience has been awesome, really cool of you guys to do this. Hope you can think, yes, we will. This was kind of our maiden voyage, our trial run.
Yeah,
if
for
you
big,
will.
for like big Bucks events like this, I could something, like the draft especially. But if we could think of any other events where it makes sense to kind of
Yes.
get you all as Bucks fans to get in the same place and we can talk about stuff. And
It's difficult too because we have to write. This is a website where we've got a lot of written content, and that's kind of what we are. We're writers, so it takes some time to do that, obviously. But look at you, how cool is that? Laugh out loud, you're welcome. I thanked him for doing that. So, cool guy. So Slobberknocker here on the plank says 9. Trevor brings it down with the man bun. So you would have got a 10 with a better haircut.
for his ranking and only his ranking alone, I'm going to go with the golf score.
Okay.
So the lower the better.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Ben.
Do it again. Can't make it to the parties in Tampa. Understood. This is a great thing to do. Watched all the streams. Clutch by PR. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Monday night discussions after big games. Okay, Monday night discussions after big games. Here's the funny thing. Okay, at first I was thinking after like Monday night football.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we were way too busy and way too tired to
that ain't
entertain
gonna
that.
happen. Well, I don't sleep, so.
Yeah. You wait till you get into your 30s, boy. And then after that, then the 40s. You know what? I used to look at my parents and say, gosh, you are so lame. Like, you come in after doing a couple hours of yard work on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, you're taking a nap? Lame. Now I understand the genius that is the nap. Napping is so genius. It is. You don't have to do it in your 20s. But, God, it's so awesome to be able to, like, sleep and get refreshed and recharged. It's awesome, and it's a must in your 40s.
I'm going to live forever.
I wouldn't doubt that.
We are 2 picks away from round 7, folks. We made it.
You know who I'd love to see in Tampa? Javancy Jones, Jackson State.
I would love to see Javancy Jones.
I had a chance to
You
to
told me
interview
about
him.
his story and
Oh my
interviewing
gosh,
him, and
great guy.
boy, at the East West Shrine game, nobody more vocal. Nobody. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what stood out to me, if Javancy Jones, wherever he goes, if he goes to a team, he might even be an undrafted free agent. So when you see his name, just know this story. When we were at the East West Shrine game, they ran a goal line drill where they put the ball on the 1-inch yard line, and they looked at the offense and said, you can run any play you want, you got to score. And Javancy Jones, obviously the middle linebacker playing defense on this team, I think it was for the East team, and he is just, as the offense is in their huddle talking, like, designing the play, whatever, and seeing what they want to do, Javancy Jones is going up to every single defensive player, and these are not his teammates. These aren't people that he, has played with for years. These are people that he just met probably to play with an all-star game, and he's like going up to each of them, and he's getting them hype, and he's like, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. Like, we got to make a stop. Basically like a Jameis of the defense. For a group of guys he's never met. They hike the ball. It ends up being a run right up the gut. Defense stops him. 1-inch line. Javancy Jones, first dude to take his helmet off and just like start yelling and getting in the face of all his dudes. And so that to me was enough to say this guy can play for my football team, whatever football team it is. And even if he is just a depth linebacker kind of a player. He will play special teams forever, and he will take so much pride in that because he looked like he was a guy who just took up pride in him playing the game of football. So
Yeah.
um,
Football player, just a
you
football player.
you have his interview, or you did his interview, and you got to hear you got to talk to him
Yeah.
and talk a little bit about his experience. What was that?
Incredibly mature guy. His mother has a condition where it's like a nervous system condition or like an autoimmune condition where she just became paralyzed. Like it's one of those things where you wake up and you're like uncomfortable, and then within a week she was having some pain, and then it went to like full on paralysis below the neck. And he's got a little girl, and just one of these raised right kind of guys. Yes sir, no sir, please, thank you. Loves the game, passionate person. He's just one of those people that makes a lasting impression on you, and has a tremendous first impression. Thanked me for interviewing him. Thanked me for my time. I mean, a lot of times you try to get these athletes to talk, and the Buccaneer players are really good. We've got a good relationship with them. But I mean, sometimes these athletes, they look down upon the media or whatnot. But I mean, Javancy Jones was an absolute ace. So, and the interesting thing with him is he played defensive end, he played linebacker, like Sam linebacker, middle linebacker. He did it all at Jackson State. He went through 4 different defenses in 4 years. And one of those years, I want to say it was a sophomore year, Paul Spicer was the defensive line coach at Jackson State right before he came to the Buccaneers to work with Joe Cullen as the assistant defensive line coach. And he has stayed on with the arrival of Jay Hayes, and really is an up-and-coming coach. I mean, it's not going to be very long before Paul Spicer is a full-fledged defensive line coach running his own room somewhere in the league. Great guy. So, let's see here.
Ha! Brad Kaya just got taken by Detroit.
Yeah.
You know, as a coach in Detroit.
Yeah.
Al Golden.
Wow. You can't escape him, even if you wanted to.
That's funny.
Question from Twitter from Rob Pickett. How long do you think some fans will judge McNichols solely because he went to Boise State like Martin? I came away impressed with his film.
Immediately? Probably the answer of how quick people will make the comparisons. Immediately.
Yeah.
They already have in the media room. That was one of the first questions that they asked him.
Did he like coming here? Is he afraid maybe of being in Doug Martin's shadow? Does he like the fact that Doug is a fellow Bronco? What do you think the pulse was from talking to him?
He was pretty. I don't know. He was pretty. I don't want to say soft spoken. Just he didn't have a ton to say about it. They asked him if he knew Doug Martin personally. He said, "Yeah, I know Doug personally. He comes back here and he works out and things like that." And he's like.
And Doug Martin did come back to Boise this offseason. He tweeted out a picture, I think it was on him on his Instagram account, sitting at midfield, kind of like in a reflective picture of him right there at the Boise logo at Boise's field.
Yeah.
He was up there this offseason.
And, I think he's saying, like, he comes back to train here sometimes, and he's met him and he knows him, but when asked about it, he's like, yeah, I guess, we're similar styles, similar size, so I could see how people say that, but he didn't really seem like he was, and I don't want to say in a negative way, but it's not like he was embracing, like, yeah, man, I'm the next Doug Martin. I think he was just like, y'all can judge me as the next Doug Martin, but I'm kind of like my own thing.
Yeah, Stacy Coley to the Vikings.
I did see that. So Stacy Coley, we're getting all the Miami guys going now. Joe Yerby's next. I don't know. How many picks of the Buccaneers? You guys got it on tap?
We're round 7 now. Let's see where we are. Round 7. Coley leads off round 7. Vikings have another pick right here. And they go Ifedi Idinjibo from Northwestern, defensive end. So Raiders are on the clock. Jaguars. The Buccaneers have the 19th pick in the 7th round, which is pick number 237.
237.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, a lot of love for from Javancy Jones, for Javancy Jones on
James
Twitter.
is good. I like him. I don't know if they're going to pick him, but I actually would not. Well,
You know, if the team looked at him as a defensive end, as a versatility guy, you know, and if they really felt like he could play a role in special teams, that's the biggest thing. Your 7th rounder, if he's going to make the team, he's got to be on special teams. I'll tell you what, yeah, with Javancy, I'm not surprised that he hasn't been picked. He was like a 6th or 7th round guy. Obviously, 6th round just passed, so he has a chance. It's now or never. I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers might grab him, and where did they pick? They picked number 30, so 31 Seahawks, 32 Lions, 33 Bengals, 34 Browns, and then the Broncos with Mr. Irrelevant. So there is a chance. I think the Steelers might grab him
and why
at number 30 or number 248 overall.
why did Noah Brown declare from Ohio State?
Hey, same with Elijah Lee from Kansas State. Elijah Lee, stupid.
How many years did he play?
He was a 3-year starter at K-State.
Elijah Lee was?
Yes, and he was a guy that maybe could have been a 3rd rounder next year in the draft, but just not athletic enough. And without the production, I think that he needed to hone his athleticism. You know, one more year in the weight room, one more year getting more, or getting bigger, better, faster, stronger, that kind of stuff. Tampa Bay traded up.
2.
The Buccaneers are on the clock. They traded up to 223. What did they give up to trade up? They only had a 7th round pick. Bucks had to give up a future pick or a player. They traded with the Dolphins. So the Jaguars are picking, and then the Buccaneers are on the clock. Jaguars at 222, Buccaneers at 223. The Bucks gave up their 7th rounder in 2018, plus the 7th round pick this year.
Okay.
So
there's a guy that they want because they moved up to get him.
cornerback.
Wow, they got Jalen. Not the Bucks. Sorry, the Jaguars got Jalen Myrick.
More than 250,000 fans attended the 2017 NFL Draft in Philadelphia, a new record. Philly did a great job, absolute great job, hosting this NFL Draft. It was fun watching it there. And for a city that does not have a football championship, a Super Bowl trophy, it's a great consolation prize, is it not?
I suppose so. That's all they can. That's what they gotta hang their hat on.
Let me know who the pick is, Trevor.
I will.
223rd overall pick. The Bucks use their 7th round pick to gonna get it first here. I think. Maybe a quarterback. Pick is in. You got it?
No. You see it anywhere?
Nope. TV might beat us to the punch here.
Wow, is TV really going to beat us to the punch?
USC defensive tackle. Stevie. Can't even pronounce the name.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Big boy. You know, we had Josh Augusta as a possible guy.
They picked a giant defensive tackle.
Yeah. And let's see here. Six one 331. Okay. Pronounced Tu Iko Lovatu. Tuika Lovatu. Tuika Lovatu. Stevie Tuika Lovatu. They consider. I'm going to read this off NFL.com. Scouts consider Tuika Lovatu of advanced age for a rookie, as the married man turns 26 years old in June. Wow. Okay. All right.
You want me to or what?
Why don't you, you know the guy?
Not a chance. He's
I
26.
do. Here, read this. Read that right there.
Okay.
Okay. He's basically a big guy. You know.
No, I know.
Yeah, they took a look at
Okay.
Josh Augusta. They took a look at the
Okay.
Colorado kid, Josh. This fits the name.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie, him being 26 is bad. Like, bad. You don't draft 26-year-olds. Hold on, let me just read this here. His uncle was actually an NFL defensive tackle for the Jets for 7 years. So, did the Browns draft Zane Gonzalez? Huh? That's very interesting. That they would trade up for a 26-year-old. He has a crazy story. At least a little bit here that I'm reading. So I will read off part of his bio for you guys. Um, the Browns took Zane. That's funny. That's really funny. Okay, um, so he's an advanced age, 26 years. He turns 26 years old in June. The Utah native began his college career as a redshirt at the University of Utah in 2009. He first played college football in 2009. That's 8 years ago. This is what? Oh, before heading out for 2 years for a church mission in the Philippines. He missed the 2013 season with a foot injury, returned in a reserve role in 2014. 2015, he was tied to FBS for fumble recoveries, blah, blah, blah. Decided that he would prefer to play at USC for his final season, so he transferred. He's a second-team All-Teamer there. Actually lived out of his car near USC's campus last summer until he was cleared to get housing benefits by the NCAA. That's nuts, man. What is you? There must be like this guy must have an incredible character. This dude must be like a really good dude. And they were looking to add size wherever, so I just spelled his name for the first time now. Got it. Back up to Baker. Riley tweeted out some good stuff. I'm not shocked. I'm sure Riley has watched him. I have not. Man, he is so big, this dude. Whew. This guy might be. This guy might. I don't know. We'll have to see. A couple people have him rated really high as just a can't teach girth dude. I'm gonna tweet that out. Dude, this dude's huge though. Um, all right. Well, folks. Sorry, gotta do all this stuff at once here, guys. Making sure I got the undrafted free agency tracker set up for you guys, so you can keep track of all the picks after the draft. Making sure you guys have all those the second it posts. So. Wow. Javante Jones still not picked yet. You are correct. He is not. There. All right. See how you guys are freaking out. All right, we're back. Yes, you're watching a PR article being written live, probably with my terrible posture as I was leaning over my, not even my computer. It's not even my computer there, which is bad. Captivating. I know. I don't know how I feel about drafting a 26-year-old. Yeah, I don't really know either. In terms of age thresholds, when you're 26, actually, I'm gonna look that up real quick, just because this will be fun for you guys to know. It's more like signing a vet free agent. That said, this dude is whipping people and everything I could find so far. Yeah, I don't really. It's weird. It's weird drafting a 26-year-old. Well, like good football players are good football players, I guess. Like you just said, if you're signing a guy in the 7th round of the draft, you're basically signing like I guess like a veteran anyway. As long as he like comes in and knows how to play, there's not much of a learning curve for giant defensive linemen. It's basically you just be giant. You got to be you. You got to be able to throw people all over the place. So that's kind of what I think it is here. And if his tape's really good and that's what he's doing, then it's not really that. It's not a bad signing. I don't really think any 7th round pick is a bad signing. You can't really have a bad 7th round pick, because it's just a 7th round pick. So I know the team has been trying to get bigger in the defensive line, and they're trying to get bigger. And again, this guy is way more of a nose tackle than anything else. Which if you guys were asking about the 3-4, and I think this guy fits a lot more into a 3-4, at least size wise. Haven't watched anything more than flashes of his tape. But I say, he's just a guy that's much like Saliga. That when McCoy comes off, they don't want to be moved. They don't want to be run on. They want to control the gaps. They want to control the line of scrimmage. And how you do that, you get a lot of people who are earth movers and and these big size guys. So big people beat up on small people. That's how it is, and I don't think they're going to ask this guy to run too much down field or anything like that. But if he's got to take on two blockers and he's just got to chew up some gaps, then age be damned. This guy's all right. I don't mind the pick. It's really weird drafting a 26-year-old, but if this is what they were going for, then whatever. 7th-round picks are just. Yeah, 7th-round picks are just normally throwaway guys anyways, so if you think this guy has matured in his strength and his body, being 26 obviously, then even if, 7th-round picks, how much you get out of him anyways. It's not like you're drafting it's not like you have a, how do you run into Baker and CVT? Yeah, I think that's their thought process, is that if they're getting gashed in the run, if somebody's running power on them hard, they can throw this guy in there somewhere. Maybe whether it's giving McCoy a breather or whatever, and he becomes a force right in the middle of that trench. So, he is only 3 years older, or he is only 3 years younger than Gerald McCoy, who is a 7-year NFL vet, about to be in his 8th year. So he is only 3 years older than an 8-year vet. That's kind of funny. I'm trying to think of a different example. When did Keem Spence come in? Did Keem come in when he was 20? I feel like Keem was young when he came in. Maybe not. Because if so, then Akeem Spence would be. I don't know why I just yawned. I'm not tired. Probably am. He is a year older than Aaron Donald. I know that for sure. Aaron Donald was 25. Or is Aaron Donald 26? Man, now I'm blowing it. Anyways, I'm trying to think of guys. I'm trying to think of a scenario where he is basically older coming into the league than people who have already been in the NFL. So, let me see here. Let me scroll up and see what you guys thought. His one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl are great. He's just blocking dudes backwards. Yeah, man. Is he in shape? Have no idea. Didn't really know he was on their radar, but it makes sense now that they've been trying to get bigger at both spots, both linebacker and the defensive line. I think they're tired of getting pushed around. I'm liking this guy over the 2 DTs the Bucs have been talking about. He is certainly much more of a size guy. Everybody else has been talking about. Projection. He's a 4th or 5th rounder. Said NFL.com wants Utah to play the UFC and seem to pay dividends. Charming punch sets him up to be successful. Let's get the blockers off. Yeah, I read Zerline's thing about him, and it seemed like they were praising him pretty well. So Mike Smith does love big DTs. He's more of a nose tackle, I think, but I really think Mike Smith could probably get the most out of him no matter what. So I'm actually pretty cool with this pick. It was weird. It was kind of out of left field because I didn't think that he was gonna. Where can I get the UFDA list in real time? I'm gonna tweet out the Pewter reports. I'm gonna tweet out the draft tracker the second the draft is over, probably a couple picks before it's over. So that'll be out, and I'll be looking at that. And every time I see one, I'll grab it, hit publish. It'll be up as soon as it possibly can be. I'll also be tweeting it out too. But make sure to help us out if you're watching me on Twitter. Get some of the UFDAs. Just also do me a favor and try to help me out with the UFDA tracker. I know it's not nearly going to be as fast as Twitter, just because that's the nature of it. But I would really appreciate it if you guys did that. If you're following along, that is. So people who may not be as adept to Twitter might still see it and click on it and read it that way. So they don't have to miss anything. Baker, Saliga, Stevie T, and Beckwith all in effort to get bigger up front. You're totally right. I'm with you. We're seeing where they want to go now, and what their kind of theme was going into the draft. They're bulking up, man. O.J. Howard for sure is a bulking up. Thing about the tight end, Evans is a safety, so not really. But Godwin's a wide receiver, so not really. But boy, those other guys, they're getting can't teach girth, my friends. Can't teach girth. He is 3 years older than Jameis. There you go. So Man, Jameis was young when he came into the league. It's crazy how young Jameis is. Like it's such the Bucs were so fortunate to be picking number one when Jameis was number one because of his age, just who he is, all of that. So, I wonder if Javancy Jones is going to get picked. Dolphin selection. I'm trying to keep the tracker up so I don't miss anything. He's one price. Oh, he went to the Rams. Okay. I guess. Oh, Joey Ivy went to the Cowboys. Joey Ivy was another guy that I wonder from Florida if Tampa was trying to get bigger. Size over speed. Certainly, depending on where you want your points of attack to come from a defense, yes. But I will say that I like this pick of Stevie T, no matter what they were trying to do initially, because even if they think they have to go more nickel next year as the NFL kind of adapts to more speed, you don't have to sacrifice size in the front four. Cowboys push them around. I mean, the Cowboys push everybody around, but I do think, to your point, Robert, that this is... Oh, they got Isaiah Ford? Look at that. He went way too late. To your point, Robert, yes, the Cowboys push them around. The Cowboys are better than a lot of other teams, but it's also the Cowboys are a playoff team, and that's I think what they're weighing themselves up against. But it is interesting because where the Cowboys are a lot of power in the offensive line that they have, say a team like Atlanta, they're much more spread. So you got to make sure you can play nickel too. That's why them drafting Cox get drafted. Did Cox just get drafted? Saints ran right at him too. You're right, and that's why the Beckwith pick confused me a little bit. This pick doesn't, because even if you play nickel, you still got to get bigger. This team had to get bigger up front. I like Akeem Spence, but this team had to get thicker up front. So this pick is good no matter what because it helps you defend the run and it helps you dominate still. Deter. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm an idiot. Dictate. Thank you. Dictate the point of attack when you have size. So that is a way that you can defeat or that you can neutralize the run and still stay in nickel if you can still dictate the point of attack with guys who have a lot of size and really cover the gap. So if you have even these players who are covering more gaps, or Baker Wood or CVT or Saliga, that's still okay to get the most out of Gerald McCoy because it's usually eating up a couple double teams that are near him. So the more Spence develops on the edge on the outside to complement that, then you're just getting almost two one-on-ones, one with McCoy and one with Spence, and holy cow, that's a recipe for a really good front four there. Devontae Mays just got picked. I like the Isaiah Ford pick this late. I really do. I think Ford's pretty good. I thought he was a pretty good. I thought he was a good route runner. He did really well with separation. I thought the Virginia Tech offense was kind of very unorthodox with Gerard Evans because Gerard Evans is a weird kind of quarterback. But let's. Just making sure the tracker's set up so I can get that to you guys as soon as possible. All effective in short yardage. What do you mean short yardage? So, what are you saying there? All effect. Effect. Sorry, I read effective. So they affect short yardage. Yeah, I didn't think the Bucks were that bad in that area last year, but I'll look up stats on how they did on really 4th and short or 3rd and short, more importantly, to see. Even second, I'll look at what happened on 2nd and 3rd down and short and see if this team was really glaring there and if they saw something. Obviously, this might be a hint that, yeah, there was something there. This was something that needed to get addressed. I thought it needed to get addressed no matter what. You can always, if you can get size in certain areas, like I said, big people beat up on small people. That's just all there is. It's all there is to it. And sometimes you have to have the right athletes and the right players who are big to be able to continue that and to beat up on them. But that's kind of the theme of football. That's how it goes. Okay, so that one's not gonna work. I think somebody said thoughts on what they gave up. Yeah, they gave up a 7th round pick next year, and then they're obviously their 7th round pick this year to move up higher into the 7th round. So, oh my goodness, the Cowboys got Noah Brown. Wow. Oh wow. Okay, guys. That's all from me. Got to go to work. Thanks, guys, for joining us so much. Look for all the updates on Twitter. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen afterwards with the undrafted free agents and everything, too. So thank you guys so much for watching. But got to quick get in for Cutter. See you guys.